rear-ended a Rolls-Royce, only to be forced into marriage by a wealthy heiress. He, a takeaway boy, accidentally rear-ended a Rolls-Royce Phantom because he was looking down at his phone. I thought I would have to work all my life to pay off my debts, but I didn't expect that I would be forced to marry a beautiful rich woman who came from the car shop. It will cost millions to repair it. As long as you marry me, you don't have to pay the money. I am yours. Consider it. Chapter 1: Delivery Guy Rear-Ends a Rolls-Royce. On Jinling Avenue in the bustling metropolis of Modu, traffic surged like waves. Luxury cars of all kinds cruised back and forth. This was one of the most prosperous areas in the entire country, a place where the rich were as common as the wind. But in contrast, many lower-class workers could also be found here. After all, without people doing the groundwork, how could a city as dazzling as Modu function? He, clad in his Meituan delivery uniform and wearing a helmet with bunny ears, weaved his electric scooter swiftly through the heavy traffic. He came from a remote mountain village in the southwest. That place had terrible transportation. When he was in school, he had to leave home at 5 a.m. every day and hike for 3 hours just to reach the town school at the foot of the mountain. Now that he had graduated, instead of working a 9-to-5 office job, he chose to become a food delivery rider. Sure, office jobs had AC and were relatively easy, but they also came with a long internship period and extremely low pay. Even after the internship, you were just an ordinary employee with an average salary. In contrast, being a delivery rider allowed him to make more. He was tough and could endure hardship riding from 7 or 8 in the morning all the way until midnight. Making over 10,000 yuan a month wasn't impossible. He made a plan. Once he saved up 100,000 yuan for his parents back home, he switch careers and chase his true dreams. Crap, I'm almost out of time. He muttered. It's all that last restaurant's fault. They ran out of ingredients but still took my order, then had to go shopping mid-prep. He sped forward while quickly glancing at his phone mounted on the front of the scooter. The app showed that the order was close to timing out. But road safety rules are there for a reason, and looking down at your phone while riding is just asking for trouble. Sure enough, just as he glanced down to check the time, a car suddenly turned into the intersection ahead. It was a long, sleek, and elegant car. One look told you this wasn't just any vehicle. Just as the car completed its turn, his scooter charged straight toward it. Oh no! The moment he looked up, his face turned pale, but it was already too late. Bang! A loud crash echoed as his scooter slammed hard into the back of the car. Thud! He flew off the scooter and landed on the pavement. His short-sleeved uniform offered little protection. His elbow was scraped and bleeding. But he didn't react to the pain. Instead, he sat there, stunned, staring at the car he had just rear-ended. A wide rear end and a giant R badge. It was a Rolls-Royce. I'm done for. Completely screwed. He had seen enough news reports to know this wasn't just any car, it was a supercar. With his modest knowledge of luxury vehicles, he immediately recognized it. This was a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Even the non-custom versions were obscenely expensive. Starting price? At least 10 million yuan. A 10 million yuan car, rear-ended by him. His face turned ghostly white. Screech. The car door opened, and a long, fair leg stepped out. A beautifully dressed city woman climbed out of the car, attracting the attention of the growing crowd. He's finished. This poor delivery guy is toast. That's a Rolls-Royce Phantom. And it looks like it's been customized with special paint and carbon fiber parts. That's gonna cost a fortune. The damage looks serious. A new paint job and taillight alone could cost hundreds of thousands, maybe more. The onlookers whispered sympathetically. For a regular guy like he, crashing into something like that was a financial death sentence. If it had been a normal car, insurance might helped cover the damage. But he was on a scooter, and scooters don't have that kind of insurance. When Ingyin stepped out of the car and frowned as she inspected the rear. It was indeed quite a nasty dent. Then she turned to look at Hiyu. But the moment her eyes landed on him, she froze. Her body trembled. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes. To the onlookers, it seemed like she was terrified by the accident. Wow, the owner must be in shock. Yeah, look, she's crying. But in truth, when Ingyin wasn't crying out of fear, she was crying because of Hiyu. Long buried memories rushed to the surface. She didn't know his name, but she had never forgotten his face. All these years, she had made multiple trips each year to Annan County in the southwest. But no matter how hard she looked, she could never find the person she had kept in her heart all this time. She never expected to meet him here in the middle of Modu. "Hi," he said, trying to keep his cool. "I crashed into your car. I wasn't paying attention because I was checking my phone. I'll take full responsibility and pay for the damages. Please give me some time, I might need to pay in installments. I don't have that much money right now. Please." Despite his pale face, his strong upbringing made him face the situation head on. He wasn't either type to make excuses or try to run. "What a responsible young man," one bystander murmured. "But that's a Rolls-Royce Phantom worth tens of millions. His life is basically over," another sighed. When Inying snapped out of her daze when she heard Heiress' voice. That voice, it's been echoing in my mind for years. Her heart raced, but she needed to be absolutely sure. She had to confirm if this was really the same person. "Excuse me, where are you from?" she asked, forcing herself to stay calm. He paused for a moment, thinking she wanted his info in case he ran away. So he pulled out his ID card from his bag. From Annan County, southwestern China?" When she read those words, when Inying's face lit up with joy and tears fell uncontrollably. The crowd stared in confusion. Why was she crying again? "I don't want you to pay anything," when Inying finally said seriously, regaining control over her emotions. She was sure now he was that boy. The boy who had saved her during the darkest moment of her life. She had been searching for him for years. Now that she had finally found him, how could she let him go? "Huh? You don't want me to pay?" He was stunned. Could this be a kind-hearted soul? But then, when Inying said something that left both he and the entire crowd dumbfounded. "Look at my bumper." He blinked and looked again. Sure enough, there was a sticker. "Single woman. Rear end me and you marry me." His eyes widened as he read the words. When Inying's face flushed with embarrassment. Of course, that sticker wasn't her idea. It had been her grandmother's doing. They lived together after her parents died in an accident years ago. Her grandmother's biggest wish was to see her get married and settle down. Even though the sticker embarrassed her, she never dared to remove it. She couldn't go against her grandmother's wishes. Chapter 2, Finally Found You, the rich woman forced me to marry you. "Well, young lady, what does this mean?" He was a little confused as to what this sticker meant. When Inying continued speaking. "My name is Wen Inying. Literally, since you hit my car, you have to do what the sticker says." Silence. Their whole place was silent as they listened to Wen Inying's words. Everyone looked at Wen Inying in front of them with dull eyes. Many female drivers had used that kind of sticker before, but they were just doing it for fun. Who would really marry someone who rear-ends someone else? But what did they hear now? Wen Inying actually wanted to fulfill the sticker's words, and she would marry anyone who rear-ended her. Their whole audience was shocked. The delivery guy rear-ended a Rolls-Royce owner, and not only did he not receive compensation, he was even forced to get married. Some people have even taken out their mobile phones and started shooting short videos. He stared blankly at Wen Inying, who was smiling sweetly in front of him. Looking at her beautiful face, tall figure, and fair skin, he was unable to react for a moment. Miss Wen, you are not kidding, right?" He still didn't believe it. How could such a good thing happen in the world? You rear-ended someone's multi-million-dollar luxury car, and not only did you not get any compensation, you might even end up picking up a super rich woman. After all, people who can drive luxury cars worth tens of millions must come from wealthy families. Do you think I'm joking? Do you have a household registration book? He was now extremely upset, and for a moment he lost the ability to think and could only nod. At home. His family's household registration booklet is indeed with him, but since he is going away to study alone, he doesn't know what to bring with him. So my parents even searched for my household registration booklet, saying it was just in case I needed it. Okay, let's go. My household registration booklet happens to be in the car. Let's go directly to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Wen Inying's face was full of smiles and she looked extremely happy. She actually squatted in front of grabbed Hiyu's hand, and was about to drag him to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register for marriage. Finally, Hiyu reacted. He jumped up from the ground and looked at Wen Inying in front of him with surprise and doubt. Well, Miss Wen, stop joking. We just met once, how can we get married? Just tell me how much your car will cost to repair. Even if it costs me a lifetime of work, I will pay for it in full. He said seriously that although he might have to work for the rest of his life to pay the compensation, he would not escape, as this was the lesson his father taught him. When Inying looked at He with complicated eyes. This idiot really doesn't remember me. But that's normal. I was very different back then than I am now. When Inying thought to herself. However, seeing that He would rather die than marry her, when Inying suddenly got angry. She said to He directly with a pout. My Rolls-Royce is welcome, but it's an exclusive custom-made version. When my father bought it, he spent more than 30 million yuan. The taillights are all broken, and there's sheet metal and paint repairs. All in all, it's not just a few $100,000. It's millions. Hearing these words, Hiyu's face turned pale. He doesn't care, but he is afraid of bringing trouble to his family. When Inying smiled immediately. But as long as you marry me and become my husband, this car and everything I have will be yours, so you don't have to pay me back. What do you think? The corner of Hiyu's mouth twitched. The implication was that if he didn't agree, he would have to pay compensation. But this is $1 million. Hiyu doesn't have that much ability. 1 million is enough to crush most families. Okay, it's decided. When Inying was afraid that Hiyu would escape, so she grabbed Hiyu's hand and stuffed him into the passenger seat. Then he just walked away. As for the electric scooter and the accident scene, when Inying called the insurance company and someone will be there to deal with it soon. In a dim basement in a village in the city. You live here. When Inying looked at the damp and dim environment around her, her eyes filled with heartache and she almost cried. Har, there's nothing I can do. Everything in the magic city is expensive. If you want to save money, you can only live in a place like this. Otherwise, you can only choose to go to the suburbs, but coming to the city center every day to run errands will waste a lot of time. Hiyu said so, and then took out his household registration book from the school bag on the bedside. Miss Wen, are you kidding me? Hiyu still looked at Wen Inying uncertainly and asked, after all, this is a lifelong event. Who would make such a hasty decision? Even in Hiyu's hometown, two people who met for the first time had to go through a meeting between their parents and give an engagement before they could get married. But Wen Inying is a super rich woman. She drives a luxury car worth tens of millions and is obviously one of the richest people. How could such a beautiful, wealthy woman decide on her own wedding so easily? Who told you I was joking? Wen Inying smiled and snatched Hiyu's household registration booklet. Then he said to Hiyu. Just let me keep this thing. What if you regret it? Having said that, she pulled Hiyu directly and left the basement. There is no need to come back to this place anymore. After marriage, everything she has, including herself, belongs to Hiyu. How could Wen Inying let her husband live in such a place? Hiyu looked pale as he sped along the road while sitting in the passenger seat. Is this woman crazy? She seemed to be in a hurry and even ran several red lights along the way. Hiyu was puzzled as he wanted to rush to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Could it be that all rich women have trouble finding a husband? Otherwise, how can I explain that I ruined my marriage for the rest of my life just because I rear-ended the car? Standing at the gate of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Hiyu began to retreat. Logically speaking, no one would refuse such a beautiful and rich wife. But because the surprise came too suddenly, it seemed a little unreal and Hiyu was hard to believe it. Don't be scared. When Inying looked at Hiyu, hugged his arms and looked at him pitifully. We're already here. If you dare to run away, I will never let you go. When Hiyu saw it, he nodded bitterly. Things have come to this point, how could he still be scared? Then the two of them entered the Civil Affairs Bureau. Accompanied by a sentence from the staff. I wish you happiness and a long life together. Then after the big red seal was stamped, the two officially registered their marriage. They became a legal couple. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and looking at the big red book in his hand, Hiyu still felt a little unreal. I'm actually married? Even a flash marriage, just met an hour ago, and now I'm registering for marriage. Chapter 3, Get the marriage certificate and announce it on WeChat Moments. Hubby. We're getting married. When Inying was very happy, and that happiness and joy were all over her face. Hiyu couldn't understand why Wen Inying was so happy. Although I am not bad looking, there are many handsome guys around like Wen Inying, a super beauty who is also a rich woman, right? There are even many handsome guys who are second generation rich, so why do you only look at me? Could it be that this is really the reason why older single women must marry someone they meet? Come on, take a photo and make it official on WeChat Moments. Wen Yingying immediately took out her cell phone. Our official announcement. He was stunned for a moment, looking at Wen Yingying with mixed feelings. If she left directly after the flash marriage, He might still think it was normal. But after getting married, the first thing she did was to make an official announcement and tell all her relatives and friends that she was married. This shows that Wen Yingying is serious about this marriage and she really wants to marry me. I am He, how can I be so worthy and capable? He thought to himself. He. Wen Yingying took Hiyu's arm and leaned her head on his shoulder. I took a beautiful selfie and then clicked edit directly. I'm married. This is my husband. What do you think? He's handsome, right? Then just click send without any hesitation. In an instant, the circle of friends exploded. Wen Yingying is the CEO of a billionaire group. She inherited her parents' inheritance and is one of the youngest billionaire women in China. But because of its low profile, it is not known to the public. So her circle of friends are all wealthy people or business partners. Hiss. President Wen is actually married. Oh my god. Who on earth took down our magic city pearl? The young man looks good and is very low-key. He seems to be someone extraordinary. Some people made such comments because although He had changed his clothes at this time, after all, he was here to register for marriage, so he had to dress a little more formally. But it was just an ordinary white short-sleeved shirt, a cheap item sold for a few $dozen at a roadside stall. Who would have thought that in the eyes of these wealthy people, it was just low-key? After all, they don't think that Wen Yingying, a super rich woman with a net worth of tens of billions, would choose an ordinary person as her husband. At least he should have a similar family background, or be from a powerful family. Otherwise, how could he be worthy of Wen Yingying? Oh, by the way, honey, I don't have your WeChat yet. Wen Yingying changed her words very quickly and started calling her husband. Ha! Okay, let's add one. At that moment, He directly added Wen Yingying as a friend. Looking at her expectant eyes, He certainly knew what she was thinking. He smiled slightly, clicked on the circle of friends directly, and found Wen Yingying's circle of friends. Then I saved the picture and also edited a post on my moments. I'm married to her. There is also an ad after it. Although it was very brief and there wasn't even much excitement, the silly girl Wen Yingying was very happy. The smile was on her face the whole time and never stopped. Similarly, Hiyu's WeChat also exploded. Oh my god. Hiyu, how come you got married so quietly? It's over. Even you are married, but I don't even have a girlfriend. Fuck. Hiyu, your wife is so beautiful. Despicable. You had such a beautiful girlfriend, but you never told us, even after you got married. Woo, Hiyu, I have been pursuing you for so long and you didn't agree. Why didn't you tell me that you have a girlfriend? Wen Yingying and Hiyu watched these updates together. When she saw the last one, Wen Yingying's eyes began to become somewhat dangerous. She looked at Hiyu dimly, her eyes full of resentment. Honey, who is that person? Hiyu couldn't help but become nervous. Is this her husband's natural attribute? A colleague at the workstation is really just a colleague. We don't have anything. Wen Yingying chuckled. I'm just kidding. But being a delivery man is too hard, so why don't you just stop doing that job? I'll support you at home. The corner of Hiyu's mouth twitched. It turned out that he still cared a lot, right? Hiyu still said that he couldn't just stay at home and live off his wife. Ding ding ding. Hiyu's cell phone suddenly rang. On the other side, Wen Yingying's phone suddenly rang. The two looked at each other and walked aside tacitly. Hello, Mom. That's right, the person who called Hiyu was actually Hiyu's mother. Hello, Grandma. On the other side, the person who called Wen Yingying was actually her grandmother. Xiao Yu. Is your circle of friends real? Are you really married? Xu Yang asked anxiously. After all, her son got married suddenly, but she didn't receive any news at all. How could she not be anxious? Yes, Mom, I'm married. Her name is Wen Yingying, she's from Shanghai, and we just registered our marriage today. There was a brief silence over there, probably because the loudspeaker was on. Xiaoyu, are you serious? Suddenly, He Yuan's father's voice sounded. He Yu looked at Wen Yingying, who was reporting to her grandmother with a happy face, and smiled slightly. Yeah, I'm serious. He Yuan on the other end of the phone nodded. Well, since we are already married, we can't let the girl down. She is so pretty and has a good temperament. The Chinese New Year is coming soon. Find a good time and remember to bring it home to see. When his father He Yuan said so, He Yu naturally agreed. And at this moment, my sister's voice rang out. Wow! Brother! You're actually married. Wow, when did you start dating and you didn't even tell me? I don't care. When you come back, bring me something delicious. When his sister He Wei's voice sounded, He Yu smiled slightly, then chatted briefly with his family, and then hung up the phone. On the other side, Wen Yingying was almost there. Okay, Grandma, you're so nagging. I get it. I'll bring him home and show him to you later. After dealing with her grandmother, Wen Yingying looked at He Yu. They looked at each other and both burst out laughing. How exciting! Wen Yingying said so. They got married just after meeting each other for an hour. It was really exciting. Fortunately, the families on both sides did not ask any questions and expressed their support for them. Grandma said she wanted to see you later. Wen Yingying looked at He Yu expectantly. Grandma was her only relative, so she naturally hoped that He Yu could get along well with her grandma. He Yu smiled slightly. Okay, then do I need to bring anything? After all, Grandma is the elder. The two chatted as they walked towards the parking lot. Chapter 4, Go Home to See Grandma, Fracture Instant Kill System. When Yingying finally said that Grandma has everything except a grandson-in-law. So He Yu simply bought some fruit and went to see his grandmother. He Yu felt a little warm in his heart. Of course he knew that Wen Yingying was trying to save face for him. After all, the gifts given by a wealthy family like theirs are extremely expensive. She said that because she was worried that she was showing off or something, right? She was too lazy to change her clothes. Wen Yingying said that her grandma was not the kind of person who cared about her gorgeous appearance and that simple clothes were enough for her. He Yu was a little nervous along the way. After all, he had never been in love before. Who would have thought that he would take a triple jump and get married in an instant and meet his parents soon? Finally, with a nervous and anxious mood all the way, He Yu and Wen Yingying arrived at a villa community on the outskirts of the Magic City. This is where Grandma lives. Of course, Wen Yingying also lives here. Although it takes a bit of time to drive to work every day, she wants to spend more time with Grandma. So Wen Yingying would rather be a little tired and live here. Are you here? Wen Yingying's villa is quite big. It's better to call it a manor than a villa. However, this is a suburban area. Although it is expensive to build a manor villa here, it is not impossible. Madam, I see, the young lady is back. The servant at the side saw the Rolls-Royce driving into the villa and immediately said to the old lady excitedly. Okay. The old lady was very happy, but the death of her son and daughter-in-law made her feel like the sky had fallen. Her only hope is her granddaughter, and her greatest wish is to see her granddaughter get married. Now, I didn't expect that my granddaughter would give me such a big surprise and got married quietly. Although she was a little surprised, the old lady was mostly happy. The car stopped in the garden, and then He Yu and Wen Yingying pushed the door open and went down. Grandmother. Wei Yingying threw herself directly into her grandmother's arms and hugged her gently. At this moment, she didn't look like a billionaire female CEO at all. You are so grown up, but you still act like a child. The old lady touched Wen Yingying's head lovingly, and then looked at He Yu in front of her, sizing him up with satisfaction in her eyes. Hello Grandma, my name is He Yu. It's Yingying's husband. He Yu said with a smile. Of course, these speeches were all reviewed by Che in advance, just to avoid performing too badly in front of Grandma. Good boy. Come on, I've asked the chef to prepare the meal, let's eat together as a family. Grandma's face was full of smiles, and there were even tears in the corners of her eyes. She stood in the middle, holding He Yu and Wen Yingying's hands on both sides, and then walked towards the restaurant. Wen Yingying was a little panicked as she looked at her grandmother who was crying. She didn't expect her grandmother's reaction to be so big. It's okay. Grandma is happy. After all, Grandma is old. She might pass away suddenly like your parents at any time. In this case, Grandma will be worried about you. Now that Xiao He is here, things are different. He can take care of you in the future, and Grandma will be relieved. The old lady has seen countless people. When she followed Wen Yingying's grandfather to establish the group, she was a strong woman. Having met countless people, he could naturally see that He Yu was a reliable person. In the restaurant, the family of three had a warm dinner. Grandma was at the dinner table, chatting with He Yu and picking up food. After hearing about He Yu's family situation, the old man didn't show any surprise at all. Instead, he said with a smile on his face that he wanted to visit He Yu's hometown. It is said that the place has beautiful mountains and clear waters, and it is like spring all year round. If possible in the future, I might as well go there to retire. It can be said that the old lady made He Yu feel very comfortable and did not look down on his background. After dinner, the couple sat on the sofa and watched TV series with the elderly. They were talking and laughing, just like a family who had been together for a long time. As time went on, the old man began to feel sleepy. It's quite late, you two should go to bed. Xiaohong? Go and clean up the largest master bedroom on the second floor. It will be the young lady and her husband's room from now on. The old lady smiled slightly, and then walked towards her room on the first floor. Only He Yu and Wen Yingying were left sitting on the sofa, looking at each other awkwardly. However, it can be seen that there is a hint of expectation and impulse in Wen Yingying's eyes. In the room, looking at the 2-meter-wide super-large bed, He Yu felt a little embarrassed. Well, how about I sleep on the sofa? The master bedroom is very large, even as big as an ordinary family's 3-bedroom, 1-living-room apartment. Naturally, it also has a sofa and a separate living room. Woo woo woo, do you dislike me? Unexpectedly, Wen Yingying started crying and said to He Yu pitifully. He Yu was suddenly startled. No, you're so beautiful, how could I dislike you? It's just that we just met and we got married right away. I was afraid it would scare you and you wouldn't want to. He Yu said this, and suddenly blushed a little. He was a virgin. He had never been in love before. When Yingying blushed, lowered her head and stood on tiptoe. Well, I do. Things have come to this point, and if He Yu remains indifferent, he is not a real man. With a touch of red falling, the two officially became husband and wife. Looking at Wen Yingying who was sleeping soundly in his arms, He Yu still felt a little unreal. Suddenly a poor boy got married, and his wife is a female CEO worth billions. You wouldn't even dare to write about this, right? I am He Yu, how can I be so worthy and capable? He Yu sighed. Ding dong. The system is starting up. But at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. He Yu was stunned. Why were there so many strange things today? First, he was rear-ended and forced to get married, and then he had auditory hallucinations. Bone fracture instant sale system is activated. Today's bone fracture instant sale products have been released, please check and choose to buy. The voice sounded again, and this time He Yu was sure that he was not hallucinating. Is it true? He Yu pondered in his heart, and sure enough, a virtual light screen appeared in front of him, and on it was the so-called bone-breaking instant kill product. Golden Finger. He Yu was shocked. He had seen it, so he knew that the so-called system was just a golden finger. Today is not my lucky day, is it? First I met such a beautiful rich wife and then I activated the system. At that moment, He Yu looked at the so-called bone-breaking flash sale products. Full information on the global financial crisis in the next 7 days. Will continue to change discount price, 7 yuan. This is today's discounted product, and it actually contains all the information about the global financial crisis in the next 7 days. But is there a financial crisis now? A global one? He Yu expressed his doubt. $7 was not a lot of money. He just clicked to buy it. What if it was real? Chapter 5, Global Financial Crisis, Beliefs in the Next 7 Days. Congratulations to the owner for making a successful purchase. The product has been delivered and 7 yuan has been deducted from the owner's balance. The system's voice sounded, accompanied by a slight ring from the phone. As expected, 7 yuan was deducted. As for the party that made the deduction, it turned out to be a unit called Hope Future Fund. It's obviously the work of the system, but I don't know why it does this. At the same time, He Yu discovered that some more information suddenly appeared in his mind. That is the future stock market information. There is 7 days of future stock market information, but it will keep changing. Obviously, the future is not static. If you intervene in it, the future will change. But the 7-day global financial crisis information that I obtained can keep changing according to the changing future. In other words, even if you don't know any financial knowledge, you can still be invincible. Tomorrow morning, the global economy will be shaken by a shocking statement from the president of a superpower. Then, due to various factors, a global financial crisis broke out. This is the information in my mind. I will know whether everything is true or not when I wake up early. There was no conversation that night, and he slept soundly while holding his wife. However, when Ying went to work early in the morning, because she was the female president of the 10 billion yuan group and she had many subordinates to help her in her work. But eventually you still have to personally inquire about it, especially important decisions, which you need to do yourself. This money is given to you by your grandma. You must not refuse it, or I will cry. Looking at the bank card in his hand and thinking of when Ying's words before she left, He's mouth twitched. Does it feel like I'm really being kept? But if that information is true, then this can be used as startup capital. I should be able to make a lot of money then, right? I don't want to be a kept gigolo. As a husband, how can I be worse than my own wife? He smiled slightly. Xiaoyu, come and have breakfast. From below, Grandma's voice was heard. Here comes Grandma. He responded and then left the room. Grandma was waiting at the door. Grandma, why did you have to come here in person? Qian supported his grandmother and walked downstairs. While talking to Grandma put her hands behind her back and gestured to the maid. The maid understood immediately and quietly entered the room when the two of them went downstairs. Then he saw a touch of red on the bed sheet and smiled slightly. Downstairs, was drinking porridge and watching TV news with his grandmother. When the maid came down, she nodded slightly at Grandma. Grandma was so happy that she drank the porridge much faster and even asked for a second bowl. As for his attention was attracted by the news at this time. He even forgot to drink his porridge. Watching the news, was shocked by the president of a certain big country who was talking eloquently and was about to use some means to deal with something. Sure enough. The system didn't lie to me. It's actually true. In that case, as the press conference ends, the global financial crisis will begin to erupt. Opportunity. This is an opportunity. He was very excited. After dinner, he told his grandmother that he had to go back to his workplace to take care of some things, and then went out. By the way, Xiao, can you drive? Grandma looked at and asked. He nodded. When he was in college, he had a part-time job and met a nice boss. Because he had to travel frequently, the boss asked him to learn to drive. Then ask Uncle Fu to prepare a car for you. It's far from here to the city, and it's hard to get a taxi. Grandma said so. He nodded, that was no problem. Then he followed Uncle Fu to the underground parking lot. After seeing the cars in the garage, he was shocked. Looking at it all, BMW and Mercedes-Benz are the lowest level. There are a lot of sports cars, including Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and various luxury cars. This is a rich person's garage. As for the Rolls-Royce that was driven yesterday, it was towed away by the insurance company for repairs as soon as possible. Sir, which car do you want to drive? I'll go get the key for you. Butler Fu Bo looked at Hiyu and asked with a smile. Hiyu pondered for a moment, thinking that he would be going to the securities company soon. If he wanted others not to look down on him, it would be completely necessary to drive a good car. Uncle Fu, which car is best to drive if we want to talk business? Hiyu asked Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu was stunned, but based on the professional ethics of a butler, he still answered seriously. These are all good. Hiyu looked over and then picked out a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a car worth tens of millions. If he drove over, it should be enough to attract people's attention, right? This is it. Driving out of the villa, Hiyu headed towards the city of Demon City. Finally, I found a nationally renowned bank, Cathay Securities, and planned to open an account there and enter the stock market. I know when to sell and when to buy, but I don't know how to operate. I still need professionals to help me with this. Sure enough, driving a luxury car is different. As soon as we entered the parking lot, a staff member greeted us, opened the car door, and asked us various friendly questions. As I entered the hall, a manager came up to me and asked about my business attentively. After all, someone who comes here in a luxury car worth tens of millions must be worth a lot of money. "Sir, what business do you want to handle?" Although He was dressed simply, he couldn't resist the fact that he came in a luxury car. "I want to open an account." Listening to Hiyu's words, the manager nodded, and immediately invited Hiyu to the VIP room with a smile. "Excuse me, sir, how much money do you want to deposit into the account?" The manager looked at Hiyu and asked. Hiyu took out the card. "There should be some money in it." "Just use all the money in this card to open the account." The manager nodded, took the bank card, and asked someone to open an account and inject funds. But soon, their voice coming from the headphones made his eyes dull. "Sir, are you sure you really want to open all the accounts?" The manager was very shocked because there was so much money in that card. Hiyu looked at him strangely, and finally nodded. He felt that the pocket money his wife gave him was probably at most 1 or 200,000. Even if his wife is so rich, giving her pocket money of 1 or 200,000 is the most he can get. However, when Hiyu arrived at the VIP room, he was stunned. Account balance: 100 million. Hiyu was stunned. His wife actually gave him a bank card with 100 million yuan in it. Aren't these legendary cards supposed to be black cards? Hiyu shook his head, but his heart was full of warmth. He directly gave a bank card with 100 million yuan in it. What a trust! I guess she can't even come up with a few hundred million, right? After all, a net worth of 10 billion doesn't mean she can really come up with 10 billion. It would be good if they can come up with 1 billion at most, and this is a company with relatively abundant cash flow. Listen to me from now on. Buy and sell whatever I tell you to do. Hiyu became serious. Since his wife had given him such sufficient basic funds, Hiyu would naturally not let her down. Think about it, when the time comes, if I take out a card and throw out 10 billion or even tens of billions from it, wouldn't he when Ingyin be shocked? Chapter 6, Wealth Surges 100-fold, Global Financial Crisis. However, due to some world-shaking speeches made by the president of that superpower, the global economy has become turbulent. After all, it is a superpower that can influence the world. It is completely normal for such a situation to occur based on his words and the recent actions of that country. Then the global financial crisis broke out so suddenly. No one in the world or any country had expected that the financial crisis would come so inexplicably. Suddenly, disaster swept the world, countless companies were in turmoil, and countless shareholders lost all their money. But Hiyu is definitely not included in this. With all the information about the stock market in the next 7 days obtained, Hiyu was like a cheat. He knows exactly when each stock will rise and when it will start to fall. And then because you get involved and start muddying the waters, you don't need to worry about changes in the future. Because the information for the next 7 days is changing every moment. So even if Hiyu turned the future upside down, or even if someone wanted to specifically snipe him, Hiyu could know all the future changes in advance. So he is directly invincible. At this time, you have to rely on these 7 days to make money by using every possible means and at the fastest speed. Time passed slowly, and in just 1 day, the 100 million yuan capital in Hiyu's hand increased tenfold in an instant. This is not an exaggeration. He knows all the stocks with the highest increase and the stocks with the highest decrease in the world. No matter buying high, buying low, or picking at the bottom, he can always seize the opportunity. While others earn a certain amount, he earns the maximum amount. He can always make a shot at the most critical moment and never lose a point. For several consecutive days, Hiyu came to Cathay Securities to carry out operations. After when Ingyin returned home on the first day, she said that something happened in the company and she had to deal with company matters for a few days and would not be going home for the time being. Hiyu had recently learned about the stock market and could probably guess what had happened in the group. After all, the global financial crisis will affect at least 90% of listed companies. Except for some companies backed by state capital, no company can escape the crisis. However, Hiyu's biggest goal at this time was to do his best to earn more money during the 7-day financial crisis. In this way, we can help when Ingyin afterwards. After all, her group has a market value of tens of billions. If she doesn't have any financial resources, how can she help turn the tide? As Hiyu's dominance in the global stock market increased, he immediately attracted the attention of international financial giants. Among them was the famous stock god Buffett, who was also the first to pay attention to this giant shark from Hualong country. He used 100 million yuan capital, in just a few days, circulated in major stock markets around the world and skyrocketed to billions. And this profit is still doubling, because he never keeps his capital back, and every time he makes a move, he puts it all in. If all goes well, the capital will be doubled or even more after each round of closing. Therefore, if He continues, the billions of funds now will even become tens of billions or even hundreds of billions. Such a large amount of funds is obviously enough to attract the attention of international financial giants. Although their investment this time was likely hundreds of millions or even billions of US dollars, Heiress was also a lot. If converted, the funds in Heiress' hands at this time are equivalent to more than 300 million US dollars. Sniper this guy. He is simply a troublemaker. He has a hand in every stock that goes up or down. If we let him continue like this, the market will be in chaos and no one will be able to catch fish in this muddy pond. Buffett said so, and all the major international financial giants think the same way. After all, he was like a madman. He bought a little here, and before everyone started to arrange the operation, he suddenly sold it again. Then a large amount of funds was used to buy the bottom of another company's stocks. As a result, the situation was completely disrupted by Heiress. They could not see any pattern at all, and they even started to suffer losses. The scary thing is that, apart from some lucky investors, it seems that Heiress is the only one who is making money and seeing through the market. These financial tycoons are the kind of people who eat people without leaving any bones. If Heiress makes it impossible for them to make any profit, then they will eat Heiress first. In this way, they can make good use of this financial crisis and increase their wealth dramatically. Oh no, Mr. He, someone is sniping us. A lot. Their accounts are all the most heavily capitalized accounts in this financial crisis. If I'm not mistaken, they should be the world's major financial giants, investment groups, etc. At this time, there were more than a dozen employees in Cathay Securities helping Heiress with the operations. Because Heiress was performing multi-line operations, he sat there with his eyes closed and gave an order within a minute. A few traders were simply not enough, so Cathay Pacific finally assigned him a dozen traders, which was barely enough. Everyone looked at Heiress. This had caused public outrage and he was being besieged by global financial giants. In the past few days, Heiress has become a godlike figure in the hearts of this group of financial workers. Hundreds of attempts, never failed. It can be said that he is an even more terrifying existence than Buffett. The key is that every time Heiress gives the order to take action, the stock will inevitably plummet. Mr. He, why don't we withdraw? If you sell all the stocks you have, your initial capital of 100 million will soar to 10 billion, achieving a 100-fold profit. If you evacuate now, you will become the country's new billionaire. You may even be the youngest billionaire. A trader said to Heiress, those are all the financial giants in the world, and there are even many international super investment groups. As well as some of the Fortune 500 investment departments of large groups, they are all following Buffett's actions. Now that Buffett and others have taken action against Heiress, they will certainly follow suit. Heiress pondered for a moment, then closed his eyes. Looking at the new changes in the future, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. If I continue to eat into the world's financial market step by step, my 100 million US dollars will double to about 30 billion at most. But at this time, Buffett and more than a dozen other international financial tycoons, plus hundreds of investment groups and capital following behind them. Perhaps this time, the benefits will be far beyond my imagination. Since you are going to give me money, I will not refuse it. He can clearly see all future changes in the stock market. Any means and operations of Buffett and others will be exposed in his eyes. So no matter how much money they spend, Heiress can eat it all. Chapter 7, One Man Against the Whole World, a Fortune of 30 Billion. The confrontation begins immediately. On one side is Heiress, who holds tens of billions of RMB in funds, which, if converted into US dollars, is more than 1 point for billion. 1 point for billion US dollars may seem like a lot at first glance. But the enemies Heiress is about to face are the world's largest group of capital tycoons. Led by Buffett, the capital invested in the market this time exceeded 3 billion US dollars. Secondly, other capital giants have more than 1 billion US dollars in capital in the market. There are countless others who will follow suit. All in all, Heiress will face a capital blockade of more than 30 billion US dollars. There's nothing that can be done. Who made Heiress provoke fights everywhere and offend everyone? If everyone wants to continue making money and doesn't want to be in debt, they can only get rid of Heiress, the troublemaker. After all, they don't have foresight, unlike Heiress, who can clearly know all the changes in the future. The blockade of 30 billion US dollars will cost you everything if nothing unexpected happens and he doesn't evacuate. If we evacuate at this time, we can still get some back. However, he finally chose to fight hard and did not choose to leave the financial market, but continued his operations. Global financiers, major wealth groups, and even some countries have all set their sights on this war. Everyone was shocked that he chose to confront head-on. This person is so courageous. Facing the joint encirclement of the global financial giants, he actually chose to confront them head-on. They have the capital to be arrogant. In just a few days, they have 1.4 billion US dollars. Could this person be the new generation of stock god? I just don't know who this person is. Could he be a famous senior in the stock market? Ignoring what people are saying, he is now concentrating on fighting against world financial tycoons such as Warren Buffett. The battlefield swept across major financial markets around the world, with both sides chasing each other, creating an exciting scene. Wherever he goes, he can disrupt the market. But as time went by, everyone gradually discovered that the stock god Buffett and other global financial groups did not gain any benefits. Every time he made a move, it seemed that he was surrounded by them, but he could always make an unexpected move at the most critical moment. After several market confrontations, Warren Buffett and others have paid out more than tens of billions of US dollars. On the other hand, he made off with hundreds of millions of US dollars, but he himself was still safe and sound, and even made a fortune. This incident completely exploded the world. All major financial sectors are reporting on this incident. This defeat attracted global attention and made people like Warren Buffett, the stock god, extremely angry. They are all big bosses, and they all think that this sudden financial crisis will not last long. That is why not too much capital is injected for operation. After all, it is not like the previous financial crises which often lasted for more than a month, and that is when you can really make a lot of money. That time, Buffett made 70 to 80 billion US dollars. But at this time, they were all angered by Buffett directly threw tens of billions of US dollars into the market, determined to gamble on the dignity of the stock god, encircle and suppress and make him lose all his money. Other financial tycoons also have tempers. Although some of them are hidden wealthy people, it is no secret within the circle of wealthy people. This defeat was a great humiliation for them who attached the most importance to face. So they all invested a lot of money and started to join the financial market. Because of their butterfly effect, other speculators were forced to increase their capital in order to keep up. Otherwise, you won't be able to drink the soup, unless you can predict the future like The final result was that a total of 100 billion US dollars of capital was targeted at For a moment, in the eyes of global financial people, was like a hero who challenged the whole world alone. In the eyes of stock investors, people like Warren Buffett, the stock god who are like gods and demons, can't get any benefit at all. Facing the whole world alone, he is still able to handle it with ease. Hundreds of billions of US dollars were spent, but they still couldn't bring down. Converted into RMB, this would be over 700 billion yuan. And the result? Every day, they were led around by like dogs, playing with him to their heart's content. And money began to skyrocket because of their Calabash brothers' act of saving his grandfather. The actual money that can be made in the financial stock market is actually not that much. They give the real thing a lot. Every time they attack us, it's like giving money away. Although most of the money will be swallowed up by the market. After all, global stock investors are the real big players in the stock market. Otherwise, where would the losses of hundreds of billions of dollars come from in every financial crisis? But he also made a lot of money from it. Finally, with another press conference by the president of a superpower and the voices of some international communities, some superpowers have spoken out about sanctions. This ridiculous global financial crisis, which lasted just 7 days, finally ended. The global loss is estimated to be around 300 billion US dollars. This time, one of the superpowers lost 200 billion because of its own president. After all, their country doesn't have much else but the most capital, so they don't care whether the country is doing well or not, they just want to make money. So although there were losses globally during this financial crisis, they were not as terrible as in previous times. However, there are still some companies that have been greatly affected and are on the verge of bankruptcy, and there is nothing that can be done about it. After all, when doing business, there is no such thing as not making losses. We lost. In the United States, the stock god Buffett sat sluggishly in his office chair. This time, he or they lost miserably. Almost all of the world's top financial tycoons, the group of people who frequently invaded the world's stock markets, were collectively defeated at this moment. He fell for a person whose identity was unknown. He took out tens of billions of US dollars, and with the funds from other people, the total exceeded 100 billion US dollars. But in the end, the amount they recovered was less than 10 billion. In other words, a full 90 billion US dollars was lost in the financial market. It can even be said that the United States will lose 200 billion US dollars this time, 90 billion of which will be contributed by them. Most of the 90 billion yuan was swallowed up by the market. After all, there were quite a few lucky investors. But a part of it was eaten by Heiress. At least according to statistics, more than 20 billion US dollars were eaten by Heiress. In addition, during this process, Heiress stole money from the global market. At this time, Heiress had at least more than 30 billion US dollars in his hands. A global sensation. As the financial crisis came to an end, more details of this epic battle were revealed. People all over the world were shocked. Because the old god fell and the new god ascended the throne. Warren Buffett, the stock god, led the world's top financial giants and controlled hundreds of billions of US dollars, but he was defeated by a man who started with less than 20 million, or to be more precise, only 14 million US dollars. 14 million US dollars. In the end, the major financial institutions calculated the profits for Heiress to be around 30 billion US dollars. In reality, there may be more, because they have no way of knowing some of Heiress' hidden operations. But what is certain is that Heiress' wealth has skyrocketed by more than 2,000 this time. It can be called the biggest myth in the history of global finance. The new generation of stock god is him. But because he has no name, and then because of this financial crisis, it lasts for 7 days. Therefore, his code name is called 7 by financial people all over the world. Chapter 8, The New World Stock God, 7, A Leap. The Stock God. He is like an emperor in the stock market. I defeated the international speculators led by Buffett, and fought against the whole world alone, and even won the battle, without any pressure. Horrible, so horrible. The whole world is in an uproar. Although this financial crisis lasted only 7 days, it is still a financial crisis, and many industries have been affected. Some companies were even affected and faced bankruptcy. Naturally, this financial crisis and world war have attracted the attention of many people. The seventh stock god is simply a god-like existence. He has done things that many people only dare to do in their dreams. Even Buffett openly said in an interview that he still has a long way to go in the field of finance. Because when facing the stock god 7, he felt like a baby. If possible, he hoped to meet the stock god 7. The whole world is looking for Chi, looking for this terrifying giant with more than 30 billion US dollars. After all, this is all cash flow. There are not many people in the world who can come up with such a terrifying amount of cash. Even the stock god Buffett has many consortiums behind him, and most of the funds he operates also come from those consortiums, but the world doesn't know it. But Heiress is different. All the money he earned this time belongs to him alone. Of course, no one knew this. There are also speculations that Heiress is a member of a new investment group. The 7 stock gods is actually a team, not an individual. All traders in Cathay Securities looked at Heiress as if he were a god. 7 days. During the entire 7 days, they participated in Heiress' actions throughout. He even secretly followed Heiress' footsteps and invested in some stocks. Although they finally believed Heiress completely after the first few days, they still got the most attention and made a lot of money. So at this moment, they looked at Heiress with admiration. Congratulations, Mr. He, you have become the new world stock god. The general manager of Shanghai Guotai Securities, a tall urban beauty, walked up to Heiress and said with emotion. Heiress smiled slightly, but in fact his heart was trembling and excited, but he suppressed it very well. Some time ago, I was still working hard for a salary of a few thousand or tens of thousands of yuan. Even when he rear-ended his wife when Yingying, he felt even more desperate. After all, at that time, the $1 million repair bill was unaffordable for me. Unexpectedly, after just a few days, after awakening the system, he actually became a billionaire. He is still a billionaire. His exact income is more than 35 billion US dollars. A few tens of millions of dollars doesn't he count? If converted into RMB, that's more than 250 billion. What is the concept? Let us put it this way, the current Huruan Rich list records the top 100 richest people in Hualong country. Among them, the first is Alibaba with 270 billion. The second is Boshu with 250 billion. The third one is the 240 billion Penguin Horse. In other words, the wealth held by Hiyu at this time is already ranked among the top 3 in the country. I don't know exactly how my wealth compares to Boshu's. But what is certain is that it definitely surpasses the third place Penguin Horse. Moreover, you have cash flow in your hands. This is the excitement of the stock market. If you become rich overnight, it would be like reaching heaven in one step. It can be said that Hiyu at this time is enough to leverage the financial market if so much money is invested. Of course, if Hiyu didn't draw the stock market prediction again, he would never touch the stock market because he is a layman. The legendary stock god is actually a layman. I'm sure many people will be shocked. In addition to the cash flow of $35 billion, Hiyu actually has hidden assets. That is, when the financial crisis was turbulent around the world, he quietly acquired shares of some companies. Of course, they don't occupy much space. After all, these supergroups are not willing to leave many individual shares in the stock market. Most of them only have a grasp of a few tenths of percent, or a few percent more. But even if all these shares are added together, they may be worth billions of dollars, and this is because of the financial crisis and the stock market crash. After recovery, it may be worth tens of billions of dollars. Therefore, if we only count the apparent wealth, Hiyu may already be the richest man in the country. Of course, those on the rich list all have a lot of wealth that is not exposed. No one would wave all their money around and show off. But what is certain is that Hiyu is already one of the richest people in the country, among the top 10. Mr. He, I want to treat you to dinner tonight. Cathay Pacific's general manager looked at Hiyu with a smile and invited him. Hiyu is a bachelor worth hundreds of billions. Naturally, she was interested. I'm sorry, my wife will be angry if I get home late. Hiyu said so. Suddenly, the general manager looked disappointed. It turned out that he already had a wife. Walking towards the door, Hiyu suddenly turned around. By the way, during the previous operation, I bought 12% of your Cathay Pacific shares. Currently, it is the third largest shareholder besides Hualongguo and your chairman. Although there is a confidentiality agreement, I still want to say this as the third largest shareholder. Please don't disclose my information. Hiyu smiled slightly. It swept the world and took away so much money from countless investors in the financial markets. He is the public enemy of many failed investors, so it is better for him not to show up in the short term, especially now that everyone is licking their wounds. Although it is absolutely impossible to conceal it for long, the later the better. Cathay Pacific's general manager was shocked that Hiyu had quietly acquired 12% of Cathay Pacific's shares. It seems that it is just to ensure that one's information is better protected. Yes, Mr. He, I understand. She quickly assured that the third largest shareholder, even if she was the general manager of the Magic City branch, could be removed at will. Looking at Hiyu's departing back, she sighed. What a pity. How come you are already married at such a young age? I don't know what kind of woman is worthy of Mr. He. In the parking lot, Hiyu pushed the door and walked in. Sitting in the driving seat, a few seconds later. Ha 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 ha. Hiyu laughed loudly towards the sky. Fortunately, the windows were closed, so the sound insulation was excellent. At this moment, Hiyu finally didn't need to hold it in anymore. 35 billion. If you count the market value of some companies, it would be more than $40 billion. Converted into RMB, that is more than 280 billion renminbi. He became the richest man in China overnight. Not long ago, he was just a small delivery boy, making only tens of millions of yuan a month. And now? He has become a multi-billionaire, a global financial powerhouse. The system is really a good thing. Hiyu sighed, it's a pity that although one broken product is sold every day. But not every product is amazing or explosive. Most of the products are just small gadgets. For example, a watch worth hundreds of thousands, a suit worth hundreds of thousands, and so on. Before, Hiyu was shocked by these things and felt they were so expensive. But at this moment, with $35 billion in his hands, Hiyu suddenly felt that these were all extremely ordinary gadgets. Chapter 9, Wen's group is in trouble, Hiyu intervenes. When I got home, when Yingying was back today. But looking at her haggard face, Hiyu suddenly understood. While paying attention to the stock market, Hiyu also paid attention to Wen's fashion group. The stock market was hit hard this time, causing Wen's group to be surrounded by enemies on all sides. The company's market value plummeted, and in order to maintain the market, it can be said that all of its liquid funds were thrown out. "Hubby, you're back." Seeing Hiyu coming back, Wen Yingying immediately smiled and hid her vulnerability. She didn't want to bring the unhappiness at work into her family. To be honest, Hiyu doesn't have deep feelings for Wen Yingying. After all, the two had only known each other for more than a week, but he naturally had a liking for beautiful women, especially super beautiful women. What's more, she is my wife with whom I have physical contact. "Well, I'll go cook for you." Hiyu did not ask the question even though he already knew the answer, because Wen Yingying was obviously in a bad mood at the moment, and could even be said to be a little sad. If I still ask about the group's affairs, it would undoubtedly be like rubbing salt into the wound. Instead of doing this, Hiyu would rather help his wife solve the problem directly. Isn't there an aunt?" Wen Yingying was stunned. Hiyu smiled slightly. "I want to make it for you today." Hearing Hiyu's words, Wen Yingying immediately smiled, her face full of happiness. "It's good this way. Without the group, my life will be much easier. If you sell the group off, you can live a simple and wealthy life. You can just take good care of your husband and children and stay with him." Wen Yingying thought to herself that she had lost hope. After all, because of this stock market crash, the company is in debt of tens of billions. It is still the kind of debt that must be repaid within the deadline. Although the company's market value is tens of billions, its cash flow cannot provide that much. The only way is to sell your shares, which is almost the same as selling the company. This was originally the hard work of her parents, and she really didn't want to give it up, but she had no choice but to do so in order to stop the loss in time. If you sell it now, you can get tens of billions of dollars. This amount of money is enough to live a lifetime, even if you want to live a luxurious life. The dinner was very warm and cozy. When Wen Yingying faced her grandmother, her face was full of smiles and she didn't show any abnormality at all. But in fact, the old man is a shrewd man. He founded the company with my grandfather. So she knows everything, but she doesn't ask about it. Her children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. And to be honest, the old man was also satisfied. My granddaughter is getting married and the family has a certain amount of assets, enough to spend. People should know how to be content. After finishing her meal, Wen Yingying returned to her room and went to take a shower. Hiyu went to the balcony, took out his phone, and called the manager of Cathay Shanghai. "Hello, Mr. He." The manager of Cathay Pacific in Shanghai spoke respectfully to Hiyu. He was previously called Mr. He, but at this time Hiyu was the third largest shareholder of Cathay Pacific and the big boss. "Help me plan this. The target is Wen's fashion group. We need to buy back the shares of its retail investors and all shareholders except Chairman Wen Yingying." Hiyu gave a direct order. Although Wen Yingying was the chairman, Wen's was a municipal group with many shareholders. They can all shake and hinder Wen Yingying's operations of the company. So since Hiyu wanted to do it, he might as well do it in one go. Buy out all retail investors in the stock market, buy out all shares of other shareholders, and ultimately achieve complete control of Wen's. He doesn't ask how much money his wife makes, he just wants her to have an easier time. But Wen's recent situation is not very good, and Wen's market value is currently around 30 billion. Wen Yingying, the chairman of Wen's group, owns 1/3 of the shares. In other words, if we acquire the shares at a premium, we may need 30 billion to fully acquire the shares with a market value of 20 billion. Cathay Pacific's general manager said that as an investment manager, she is thinking about her clients. All of Hiyu's funds were deposited in Cathay Bank, a small bank under the Cathay Securities Group. Although it is small, it is our own bank and it is more comfortable to operate in it. It's okay, just do as I say. What I want is to acquire the remaining Wen's shares except those held by Wen Yingying. Notify me after the acquisition is completed and I will have follow-up orders. Hiyu made the final decision. 30 billion. How much is that? It is less than a fraction of his assets, and if it weren't for the 100 million pocket money given by Wen Yingying, Hiyu would not have the startup capital and would not have been able to earn so much money. If you only rely on a few tens of thousands of your own money and invest it, you can make tens of millions and become a godlike existence. So he could make so much money entirely because of Wen Yingying's investment, not to mention that she was his wife. A day of marriage brings 100 days of love. The key is still a few days. Once Cathay Securities takes action, we will know whether it is successful or not. You know, Cathay Securities is a state-owned enterprise. Hualongwa holds 60% of the shares. It is an absolute controlling shareholder, but there is an agreement that it cannot interfere with the operation of the enterprise or place employees. The second is the chairman of Cathay Securities, who holds 20% of the shares and is said to have an official background. Of the final 20% of shares, 12% went to HEU. The remaining 8% is floating in the market and held by the majority of shareholders. 12% of Cathay Pacific shares are worth more than $3 billion, making it the most valuable share held by HEU this time. The rest are tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. Such a behemoth with a market value of more than $30 billion and official background is unstoppable. The most important thing is that background, power and money are used together, and the process goes surprisingly smoothly. In just 3 days, Cathay Securities helped HEU successfully use $24 billion to acquire 70% of Wen's shares. These are all the shares held by everyone except Chairman Wen Ying and other shareholders. HEU did not let go of even the shares worth a few $1,000s, and used Cathay Pacific's power to acquire them all. In the end, Wen's shareholding structure became HEU 70%, Wen Ying 30%. Wen's was directly forced to delist and successfully transformed from a municipal group to a non-municipal group. At the same time, after Wen's was forced to delist, Wen Ying, who was in a state of panic in the office, actually received the news. Cathay Pacific really moved too quickly, with sparks and lightning all their way, investing $24 billion and with countless departments giving the green light. It only took 3 days to complete the acquisition. It's over. Who on earth is actually interested in the Wen family? With 70% control, I guess the next step is to remove me, or buy out all of my shares, right? Wen Ying slumped in her chair, looking at the documents in front of her bitterly. Chapter 10, the $10 billion acquisition of Wen's was revealed by my grandmother. Forget it, forget it. Wen's must have been targeted by a big boss. I don't know who it is. What is so special about our Wen's that it is worth such a high premium? Wen Ying was puzzled. Although Wen's market value was very high, it was worth $30 billion. But overall, the market is limited to Shanghai and Jiangnan areas. Or it is because it was one of the first group companies in China to make cosmetics, and it has accumulated popularity. It can be said that without core competitive products, one can just muddle through. A group company like this shouldn't be acquired at a premium, right? Mr. Wen, there's someone outside, saying they are from Cathay Securities. They are here to attend the meeting on behalf of the new first shareholder. A young secretary walked in from outside and said with a worried look. Wen Ying sighed and finally came. Let's go, invite them to the meeting room. Soon, the conference room was full of people, including the senior executives of Wen's Group and representatives of Cathay Securities. The leader among them was the general manager of Cathay Pacific's Shanghai branch. Manager Xiao. Wen Ying looked at the general manager of Cathay Pacific's Shanghai branch in front of her and was a little surprised. But then he suddenly realized that the person who could easily take out $24 billion to acquire Wen's must not be a simple customer, so it was normal for Manager Xiao to come in person. Hello, Mr. Wen. I think you know why I came here. Manager Xiao looked at Wen Ying and said with a smile, but there was actually something complicated in his eyes. She helped you acquire Wen's Group these days, and naturally got to know more about Wen's Group. She noticed a piece of news, which was the incident in which a delivery man rear-ended a Rolls-Royce some time ago. At the time, it was rumored that the female driver was going to take the delivery boy to get married because there was a sign on the back of her car that said, "If you rear-end someone, you will get married." This incident is still talked about by many people. After all, it is very dramatic. After Manager Xiao found out, he immediately discovered that the delivery boy was actually HEU. In this case, plus, there are not many young women who can drive a Rolls-Royce. Secondly, HEU suddenly wanted to help the Wen family, so it was immediately clear that Wen Ying was HEU's wife. Boss Wen, we are here on behalf of our employer to discuss a few matters. It's simple, we'll go after that. That is, Wen's Group withdrew from the stock market and became a non-stock group. Secondly, your employer has already paid the billions of dollars you owe. At the same time, he also injected $10 billion in cash flow into Wen's company account. He will not interfere in any decision-making of Wen's. From now on, you will be the sole decision-maker for the Wen family. Manager Xiao said this with envy in his eyes. Where can you find such a good man? Just for his wife, he can spend 24 billion to acquire a group. Secondly, it took out more than 3 billion yuan to repay debts, and finally provided 10 billion yuan in working capital. It can be said that the amount of money he paid this time was close to 40 billion. This is worth much more than a Wen family. And all this is just to help his wife. Our Manager Xiao, did I hear correctly? Wen Yingyin was shocked. Is there such a good thing in the world? There was no request at all. Not only did they repay the debt, but they also directly injected tens of billions of funds. The most important thing is that the hundreds of billions of funds injected did not dilute their own shares. In other words, the funds injected by the new major shareholder are fully used for the development of the company. Wen Yingyin had never heard of such great news before, so it was inevitable that she would not believe it. I've brought the contract here. This side has the employer's signature. You can ask the group's legal department to come and take a look. If there are no problems, you can sign directly. Manager Xiao was obviously well prepared and had the contract ready. Sure enough, there was a series of unequal jumps, all aimed at that super large shareholder. And what Wen Yingyin and the entire Wen family gained were various benefits. Wen Yingyin stared at the contract blankly. Although she was full of doubts, she finally signed the contract. Because there was nothing wrong with the contract, but when Wen Yingyin saw the signature, she was stunned. He, your employer, the new major shareholder's name is He. Wen Yingyin was shocked. Isn't this the same name as her husband? No, I know my husband's identity and family best. I was born in Anan County in the southwest of China. I am a rural kid. After graduating from university, I worked hard in Shanghai. The most profitable job I have ever done is delivering takeout. This is 40 billion, it definitely can't be him, it seems like they have the same name. When Yingyin was talking to herself, and apparently Manager Xiao heard some of it. Manager Xiao sighed in his heart. The one who silently supports you is your husband. How can such a good man belong to someone else? How great would it be if it was me that Mr. He rear-ended? Manager Xiao couldn't help but feel a little envious and jealous of Wen Yingyin. Any woman would probably feel the same. After all, He did not show off in front of his wife in a high-profile manner, but chose to quietly help his wife solve everything behind the scenes. Finally, the contract was signed and Wen's group suddenly regained its vitality. With tens of billions of liquid funds in hand, we can make large-scale investments and acquisitions to develop various competitive new products. The future of Wen's group will surely reach a higher level. In that case, my mission is accomplished. Mr. Wen, we will take our leave now. Manager Xiao took the Cathay Pacific people away directly, while Wen Yingyin took the company's senior executives to see them off in person. After Manager Xiao and his group left, Wen Yingyin hadn't reacted yet. She still couldn't understand, is there really such a good thing in this world? No, I want to tell my husband this good news. Wen Yingyin was very happy. All the stones and depressions weighing on her heart were gone. She is in a very good mood, and when she is in a good mood, she wants to share it with her husband. At that moment, she said a few words directly, and then drove back to see her home. Husband. The group is back from the dead. As soon as she got off the car, Wen Yingyin shouted to He, who was trimming flowers and plants with her grandmother in the garden. Looking at her chattering and looking extremely happy, He just smiled slightly, listened quietly, and occasionally responded to her with exclamations of surprise. The new major shareholder actually has the same name as you. There are actually such fools in this world who invest so much money and give up so much benefit. The corners of He's mouth twitched. She actually scolded her own husband, saying, "You will be in trouble later." After being happy for a while, Wen Yingyin went to change her clothes and prepared to join He and her grandmother to trim the flowers and plants together. After Wen Yingyin went to change her clothes, her grandmother, who was holding the shower head, suddenly smiled and said to He, "Thank you, Xiaoyu. This company is the hard work of our Wen family. It is also the only thought that Yingyin's parents left for her. Without you, the group would be finished." He was stunned. Facing the old man's eyes that seemed to see through everything, he felt inexplicably panicked. "Grandma, I don't understand what you are saying." Unexpectedly, the old lady smiled slightly, scattering flowers and whispering. "When you were on the balcony making a phone call that day, I happened to be walking in the garden downstairs." He was stunned and immediately shook his head bitterly. He didn't expect that there was a single mistake and his plan was exposed like this. Chapter 11, Genetic Evolution Potion, I have to take over. Kid, if you want to help her, just say so. Why do you want to hide it? She will definitely be touched by this, right? When Grandma said this, I knew she was an experienced person. He touched his head. He didn't think so much about it. I was just afraid of scaring her, or maybe I didn't know how to explain it. After all, the money I made was so fantastic. He said so. After all, if he went out and said that he had made the money from the stock market in 7 days and became the new richest man in Hualong country, who would believe it? Grandma nodded and then left it alone. Forget it, you young people just have a lot of tricks, I won't ask any more questions. But you can pay such a high price for this girl. I was right about you. Grandma said with a smile, and he smiled slightly. He felt much more comfortable at this moment, even though his grandmother and Wen Ying had never underestimated him. But in such a family, he always felt that he was a bit of a gigolo. But now, with sufficient capital, he has become more confident. Today's fractured products have been refreshed. Gene Evolution Potion broken price, 100 yuan. At 12 o'clock in the morning, he was waiting for the refresh of the Broken Bones products as usual, but the Broken Bones products that appeared today made he a little confused. What is this? He was puzzled. The system gives an explanation. The Genetic Evolution Potion is a genetic product from 3,200 years ago. It can improve and evolve human genes. Over time, it will continue to improve people's physical fitness, brain development, and so on. If it is improved to the extreme, the physical fitness will increase 100-fold, and the brain area will be developed by more than 50%. He was stunned. It was said that the highest level of human brain development, like that of Einstein, was only 5%. If I can really develop it to 50%, won't I become a godlike being? However, according to the system, in order to avoid the collapse of the genetic program, the evolution process of this genetic evolution potion is gradual. Just like the evolution of biological instincts, it takes an extremely long time to fully realize its effects. If it is just developed, the physical fitness will be improved tenfold and the brain development will reach 10%. What a good thing! He was overjoyed and chose to buy it directly. Then a small green tube appeared in his hand, which contained the genetic evolution potion. He believed in the system, so he drank it without hesitation. It's not as painful as I imagined. It doesn't have the marrow-damaging effect of the aging. All I feel is warmth all over my body. In the toilet, he thought there would be a lot of noise, but unexpectedly, he just felt warm all over. Then his body was filled with inexhaustible energy, and his mind seemed to become much clearer. Perhaps this developed brain area will only be reflected when it is used for learning. If nothing else, just the improved physical fitness is definitely a good thing. He nodded with satisfaction. After so many days of searching, he finally got something good. At that moment, he went back happily and hugged his wife to sleep. Now that he has enough money and a beautiful wife, his future life is already perfect for He. The next morning, after breakfast, when Ying suddenly said something that surprised He. What? Let me go to the company class. He was stunned. This was something he had never expected. When Ying just smiled slightly. You are my husband, the new male owner of this family. The Wen family has now been revived and will start to rise again. You should be the one to take the helm. Come to the company. I will resign from the position of president, become your assistant, and then assist you in managing the company. Once you are familiar with the group's business, I will choose to go home. When she said this, when Ying blushed suddenly. The grandmother beside her smiled slightly. Since you two are married, you must have children. And if she has a baby, Ying will definitely not be able to continue to work hard, so it's best to let you handle the group's affairs. In this way, this girl can stay at home and take care of her husband and children with peace of mind. Grandma said the same thing. He suddenly realized that this must have been discussed between the two of them. But he hesitated all of a sudden, he had just graduated from university. Although, having been through a lot since childhood, I have plenty of social experience. But that's a group worth tens of billions. It's not that easy to manage it directly. But seeing that the two people would not tolerate any objection, he stopped talking immediately. Because this was also Ying and her grandmother's good intention. After all, it was a group worth tens of billions, and they directly handed it over to her to take the helm, which showed how new she was. Okay, then I'll try. He nodded hesitantly and decided in his heart that if it didn't work, he would just withdraw. Otherwise, it would be bad if he messed up the group. Hearing he use words, Grandma and Ying both smiled. Grandma was even happier. After all, she knew that the person who saved the Wen family this time was He. She didn't think that someone who could come up with so much cash flow would be unable to manage a small Wen's. Therefore, she felt relieved to hand over the Wen family to He. And her wish was serious, which was to let Wen Ying withdraw from the group, so that she could exercise at home and prepare for pregnancy. She was looking forward to having a great-grandson so much, so no matter what, Wen Ying had to go home to take care of her health and prepare to have a baby. Chapter 12, When Ying resigns as president, the whole audience is against. After breakfast, He sat in the passenger seat of Wen Ying's car and headed to Wen's group. Wen's group's headquarters is located on the 21st floor of the Bund Financial Building. The entire 21st floor is Wen's office area. It can be said that in this financial building where every inch of land is valuable, having an entire floor of offices is a very luxurious thing. In fact, before the financial crisis, Wen's profits had always been good. Wen's main business is fashion. There are cosmetics, clothing, gold and silver jewelry, etc. Among them, cosmetics and clothing are the biggest, while gold and silver jewelry are generally given as gifts for some expensive custom-made products. What Wensha does best are lipsticks and underwear. That's right, lipstick and underwear. Among them, underwear can bring Wen's profits of more than 1 billion yuan every year. It can be said that most of the people who were born and raised in Shanghai are accustomed to using Wen's underwear. With these being the main businesses, you can imagine how many girls Wen's has. As soon as I stepped into the company, I saw all kinds of white legs and tight skirts. In the entire Wen group, except for security guards and a few other employees, 80% of the employees are female. Hello, President. Along their way, the employees greeted Wen Ying and even called her the chairman. However, after Wen's restructuring and delisting, the entire Wen's group only has two major shareholders. One is a mysterious major shareholder who holds 70% of the shares. If there is one, it would be Wen Ying. Therefore, since Wen Ying does not hold the largest shares now, she is naturally not the chairman. Of course, if He is appointed, he can be the chairman. It's just that He had thought about this before, and now it seems unnecessary. Because Wen Ying really doesn't want to take care of the company's affairs anymore. Instead of taking care of the company's affairs, she would rather hand the company over to He. Then go home and exercise well, and then try to prepare for pregnancy. Having a child is the best thing to do. Such a gentle and housekeeping woman, who also has money, is really precious. Call the heads of all major departments to the conference room for a meeting. As soon as she arrived at the company, Wen Ying's aura was different. When in front of He, she was gentle and playful. But in front of her employees, she is a queen with a cold temperament and strong aura. Even a glance from him would make the employees tremble with fear, and no one dared to say anything. Finally, He followed behind Wen Ying like a little secretary. Soon, the conference room was full of people. They are all heads of major departments and are also senior executives of Wen's company. They are all old employees of Wen's group. All of their shares were acquired by Cathay Pacific under the order of He during the financial crisis. Now it is impossible for them to get the shares back, at least they dare not think about it from He's side. After all, He can invest tens of billions of dollars in Wen's company. His status and position are definitely not simple, and no one dares to provoke him. Therefore, many executives set their sights on Wen Ying. They regret it now. Wen's group has received investment from a super large shareholder and its future is limitless. They naturally wanted to buy back some shares, and apart from the mysterious super shareholder, only Wen Ying had shares. Hello, President. Everyone greeted Wen Ying. Although they had different thoughts in their minds, these so-called outsiders would never show it. Well, now that everyone is here, I'll just start the announcement. Due to health reasons, I will choose to step down as president and no longer interfere in the company's affairs. When these words were spoken, the whole audience was shocked. But then everyone looked at He behind her and immediately understood. Once someone is married, they have to take care of their husband and children. After all, they all knew Wen Ying's WeChat, so they naturally saw her moments and recognized He. Some people were secretly surprised. If so, wouldn't they have a chance to get involved in the position of president? How could they be so stupid as to take on this multi-billion-dollar group? But who would have thought that when Ingyen's sudden words would turn the entire atmosphere cold? I have decided to transfer the position of president to my husband, Mr. Heiress. From now on, he is the new president of Wen's. I hope you can help him get familiar with Wen's business as soon as possible. Silence, the whole audience was silent. Heiress looked at everyone's reactions and thought to himself. I'm afraid the change of dynasty this time won't be that easy. Quietly, Heiress sent a WeChat message to manager Xiao of Cathay Pacific using his mobile phone. Perhaps, we can take this opportunity to clean up the Wen family. After all, he could tell what these people were thinking just by their expressions and body reactions. They all seemed to be dissatisfied with Wen Ingyen, and some even had rebellious intentions. Heiress did not notice at this time that his analytical ability and insight had improved several times. This is the power of the genetic evolution potion. Heiress was just an ordinary person before, but Heiress now is no longer that. It's just that he hasn't reacted yet. Boss Wen, this isn't good, right? Everyone has worked hard for the group for a lifetime, and everyone has contributed to the group's growth to this point. If you step down, the position of president should be chosen from among us. And your husband, Mr. He, seems to have never worked for Wen's. How can he be the president of Wen's if he doesn't have enough achievements? As expected, the battle is about to begin. But Heiress didn't care at this time because his wife held 30% of the shares. And he holds 70% of the shares. The Wen family is the one that has the final say, and he wants to see what these jumping clowns have to say. Chapter 13. All the executives in the room forced the emperor to abdicate. Heiress became a shareholder. Wen Ingyen's face was gloomy. She didn't care what others said, but she couldn't say anything about her husband. I hold 30% of the group's shares and am the second largest shareholder. At the same time, the largest shareholder and I have signed an agreement that I can manage the group's affairs at will and he will not interfere. Now, I want to appoint a president. Do I still need your consent? After all, Wen Ingyen is the helmsman of the Wen group, so she still has some aura. But a middle-aged man suddenly stood up. Mr. Wen is the second largest shareholder, so he naturally has the power to appoint the group's top management. But this Wen family is no longer your Wen family, President Wen. I believe that the largest shareholder handed over the group to you to manage because he saw your ability. But he will never tolerate your nepotism and handing the group over to your husband, a husband who may not even be familiar with the relevant business. The person who spoke was the vice president of Wen's group. He is an old employee of the group, but the president of the group has always been a member of the Wen family. Now that he finally saw the opportunity, how could he allow the position of president to fly away from his hands again? After all, the Wen family is no longer a one-man show for Wen Ingyen's family. The biggest motivation for the Wen family was the extremely mysterious existence, the mysterious boss who spent tens of billions to save the Wen family. If you insist on appointing people based on personal connections, we will have no choice but to ask that person to come out and administer justice. I'm sure that person won't let you appoint people based on personal connections, right? The vice president said so. Wen Ingyen looked unhappy. Because she had to admit that she was indeed nepotism. Heiress has no experience in managing a group company, and this is a group worth tens of billions. Even though I and my grandmother were guiding me from behind, I was still a little willful. Therefore, if the major shareholder really gets involved, according to normal people's thinking, others will definitely oppose it. After all, people are willing to let me manage it, perhaps because they value my management ability. If it were someone else, he might not continue to be the boss behind the scenes. I'm really sorry, but it seems that the Wen family is really the one that has the final say. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. Who trespassed into the meeting room? The vice president snorted coldly, but when he turned around, his eyes suddenly became dull. Because the person who came was none other than Manager Xiao from Cathay Pacific. You should know that Manager Xiao is the spokesperson for the mysterious Mr. He. It is rumored that the mysterious Mr. Ho is a major shareholder of Cathay Pacific, so Cathay Pacific helps handle all his business. It's Manager Xiao. You've come just in time. Wen Ingyen wants to use her power to interfere with the group's normal appointments. If we find a senior executive from a Fortune 500 company to be the president, we will accept it and have no objection. But her husband is less than 25 years old this year, and he is not even a name in the industry. He may not even have any contact with our industry. The Wen Group is a group worth tens of billions. If we let him manage it, it will surely affect his interests, right? The vice president said so. He believed that manager Xiao was a smart man. After all, Wen Yingying's appointment this time is really unacceptable. In fact, it was Grandma who suggested handing the group over to He Yu. Wen Yingying also felt that the possibility was not high, but she still listened to Grandma and gave it a try. Grandma is different, she knows He Yu's true identity. Therefore, I am not worried at all about the handover of the group. Manager Xiao looked at the excited Wen's senior officials present, with a blank expression on his face. He just stepped on his high heels and came to He Yu. Looking at He Yu in front of her, her cold face suddenly showed a brilliant smile. "Hello, Mr. He." These three simple words stunned the whole audience. Could it be that Xiao Yangran, or the big boss behind her, agreed to Wen Yingying's appointment? When Xiao Yangran entered the meeting room, a shareholder quickly stood up and gave up his seat. But Xiao Yangran actually walked behind the chair, pulled it open herself, and spoke to He Yu respectfully. "Please take a seat, Mr. He." The whole audience was shocked. He Yu nodded calmly and then sat down. After He Yu sat down, Xiao Yangran looked at everyone in the audience and said in a very indifferent tone. "The equity structure of Wen's group is that Mr. He holds 70% and Mr. Wen holds 30%. Even if you want to be nepotistic, what does it have to do with you?" Xiao Yangran's words made everyone in the audience a little confused. Mr. He, 70%. Mr. He Yu, could it be that? Everyone was suddenly awakened. Isn't that mysterious Mr. He the same name as He Yu? Xiao Yangran smiled slightly. That's right. Mr. He is my big client. He entrusted me to acquire 70% of the shares of Wen's group. As for your Wen's debts and working capital, all of them were entrusted to me by Mr. He. Mr. His wife is Mr. Wen. 100% of the shares of the entire Wen group are held by their father. Then may I ask, even if we want to appoint people based on personal connections, what does it have to do with you? Silence, the whole audience was silent. Everyone looked at He Yu with dull eyes. Countless people had previously believed that Wen Yingying had found a gigolo. But I never expected that he was actually a hidden giant. Acquisition of 24 billion. 3 billion in debt. Invest 10 billion. He spent nearly 40 billion yuan just to save his wife's company. How rich must he be? Could it be that he is a hidden super rich man? Chapter 14, My husband is actually a world stock. Wen Yingying looked at He Yu blankly. She had no idea about this matter. Maybe Grandma knew, no wonder she asked her to hand over the company to He Yu without worrying about any follow-up issues. It seems that He Yu is the Queen Mother's super shareholder, the one who turned the tide and saved the Wen Group. But this is impossible. My husband is just a delivery man. You know, she knew very well about He Yu's family situation. First of all, He Yu had just graduated from college, and secondly, He Yu's parents were authentic rural people. How did He Yu, who came from such a background, get tens of billions of cash? You know, even the top rich people may not be able to come up with such a large amount of cash flow. Looking at everyone present, He Yu said lightly. From today on, I will officially take over the position of president of the group as chairman. As for you, collect your wages for this month and then leave Wen's. He Yu's words were merciless. These people had dared to unite and force Wen Yingying to abdicate. Although they seemed to have sufficient reasons, the company really couldn't give a layman a chance. But so what? He Yu would never keep them if they dared to be so disrespectful to his wife. Mr. He, we are wrong, Mr. He, please don't fire us. Some people began to panic. They had worked for so many years to climb to their current position, with an annual salary starting at 1 million, not even including bonuses. If they leave Wen's group, they may not be able to find such a good job. However, He Yu's eyes were very indifferent. He showed no mercy and directly fired all the people present. Manager Xiao, please place orders for the vacant positions with all the largest headhunting companies in the Magic City. No matter if it's a Fortune 500 company or any other super leading enterprise, as long as we can poach employees, we can poach them. As long as they are capable, we will offer them double or even several times the salary. As long as they are willing to work for Wen's, everything will be fine. He Yu instructed Manager Xiao that this amount of money was nothing to He Yu. Couldn't he afford it with his assets of more than 200 billion? After all my assets are cash. Moreover, with a fracture commodity system, he would definitely not be short of money, nor would he lack the means to make money. In this case, some capable subordinates are the most important. After all, it can help you run your company and maximize the benefits you get from the system. Only then did he notice that his thinking reaction and analytical ability were several times stronger than before. Everything can be considered perfectly in just a moment. This is the function of genetic evolution. And this is just the beginning. As time goes by and development becomes stronger, you will become more and more superhuman. Okay, Mr. He, you have such good conditions that I almost can't help wanting to work at Wen's. Manager Xiao said with a smile on her face. When Ying suddenly felt a little uneasy and involuntarily moved closer to He smiled slightly. Then I'll make the decision and give Manager Xiao a raise. Hearing what He said, Manager Xiao was overjoyed. Thank you, Mr. He. I'll get busy now. He is the third largest shareholder of Cathay Pacific, second only to Hualonghua and Cathay Pacific's chairman. If he decides to raise his own salary, there will be no problem at all. As the third largest shareholder, we are fully qualified to do so. After Manager Xiao left, He and Wen Ying were the only ones left in the conference room. Wen Ying looked at He with resentment. How did you suddenly become so rich? And Grandma seems to know about it, but I don't. As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. He became nervous at that moment. No, I didn't mean to hide it from you, but it's too shocking to tell you, and I'm afraid you won't believe it. He said with a wry smile. Then tell me what you want to say. Wen Ying said coquettishly. He nodded repeatedly, then hugged Wen Ying and began to tell her about the financial crisis that affected the global stock market. What? The world stock god, 7, is actually you. Wen Ying was shocked. Anyone who has been in contact with stocks, or is a wealthy person with a little bit of assets, knows about the 7 stock gods of the world. He alone navigates the global financial market and fights single-handedly against the world's major financial giants led by Buffett. Even when they jointly mobilized hundreds of billions of dollars to carry out a siege, they were able to escape unscathed, or even win the battle, leaving Buffett and others penniless. It can be said that in just 7 days, the stock god Xi accomplished countless legendary deeds. His achievements are still regarded as myths by countless financial professionals around the world. And this kind of stock market, with a nearly godlike existence, is actually her own husband. When Ying opened her mouth slightly, obviously unable to believe it. Because according to insider information, the wealth that the stock god Xi has swept up with 100 million yuan in these 7 days is enough to enter the top 3 on the list of the richest people in the country. What a myth! It took only 7 days to complete what others would have worked for a lifetime or even decades. Chapter 15, Body Shaping Clothes, again from the future. It was not until when Ying saw the balance in He's account at Cathay Bank that she believed it. That's a cash flow of more than 200 billion. Who else can come up with such a terrifying cash flow except the court of Hualong State? When did you learn how to trade stocks? And you're so good at it, you stock god. The former stock god Buffett even said that in front of you, he is as fragile as a baby. When Ying looked at He excitedly and asked, her eyes full of admiration. Her husband was so awesome. Just like when they first met, He at that time was so tall and majestic in her heart. At this moment, He was still the same, extraordinary and great. I understand a little bit. He laughed. Actually, it was only those 7 days. After those 7 days, He really knew nothing about the stock market. Of course, if He didn't say it, no one would know. I don't care. My husband is so rich, he has to support me in the future. When Ying said playfully. He laughed and touched her head and said. Okay, your husband will support you from now on, and you can buy whatever you like. He waved his hand with an air of authority. The money he had at the moment was such that no matter how much he spent, he would never be able to spend it all. Compared to these, it is better to accompany family and do something meaningful. In this way, Wen's group replaced its management. It can be said to be a major change. From the president to the vice president, and then to the executives of various major departments, all of them were replaced. Generally speaking, such large-scale personnel changes will inevitably cause turmoil in the group. However, after the employees learned that the new president would increase the salary of all employees in the company by 50%, the so-called unrest disappeared. Everyone looked happy and their sense of belonging to the company was further enhanced. In this magical city, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money, isn't it just for money that we come here to work hard? Now Heiress has increased their salary by 50%, which is a huge salary increase, so everyone is naturally happy. It was such a simple trick that earned Heiress the support of the entire company. Moreover, the fact that Heiress is the company's largest shareholder cannot be concealed. The news spread throughout the company in no time. Wow! I thought Mr. Wen was keeping a gigolo, but I didn't expect that Mr. Wen is the one being kept. Hiss. The group was in crisis, and he took out 40 billion to save the group and help his wife. What a good man. Yes, the most important thing is money. 40 billion. Even if the entire Wen group was sold, there wouldn't be that much money. Could President Wen's husband be the son of one of the richest people in the country? Or is he from a big family? There was a lot of discussion within the company, but what was certain was that everyone recognized he used capital. These so-called big groups and big companies are actually all competition among capitals. With such strong capital from the chairman, Wen's future must be bright. After all, if you have money, you can really do whatever you want. Today's fracture product has been updated, body shaping wear technology. A future body shaping product from the year 2845, suitable for women of all shapes and sizes, no matter how fat or how asymmetrical their body proportions are. As long as you wear body shaping clothes, you can gradually transform your body into a slender S-shaped curve within 3 months. Heiress was stunned. It turned out to be another product from the future. The previous genetic evolution potion came from the year 3200, and this body shaping garment came from the year 2845. Perhaps to people 800 years from now, this will be just like ordinary underwear today. But for people of this era, it is super black technology. You can lose weight and shape your body just by wearing it. This is simply super black technology. If Wen's launches this high-tech product, it will surely sweep the world and become the world's top underwear group. It's just that, with such advanced technology, can scientists of this era understand it? Heiress hesitated a little, and then chose to spend a few $dozen to purchase this technology. Looking at the technology in his hands, Heiress was suddenly surprised. He didn't know whether others could understand it or not, but Heiress himself understood it. Isn't this the power of 10% brain development? Only at this point can it be truly demonstrated. Not bad. If we master this technology, we can create a production line. Although they have made enough money, no one would say that they have less money, right? And the most important thing is that Wen's group is Wen Yingying's dream for her parents. She hopes to develop Wen's group and make it a super group among the Fortune 500 or even the Fortune 100. She will definitely be very happy, right? When Heiress thought of this, he looked at Wen Yingying who was sleeping in his arms and smiled slightly. Chapter 16, Spring Festival is approaching, preparing to bring my wife back home. Although Wen's has its own R&D department, Wen's products tend to be design-oriented. After all, it's impossible to make patterns on a piece of clothing. Therefore, this shaping underwear requires the recruitment of some scientific research talents for its development. Otherwise, it would definitely not be possible. Heiress plans to develop the core technology himself, or create a special program and then use the smart production line to operate it. But no matter what you do, you need certain scientific research talents. Heiress is the third largest shareholder of Cathay Pacific, and Cathay Pacific is a semi-state-owned enterprise with an official background. Therefore, Heiress directly found manager Xiao and asked her to help him find relevant scientific research talents. In just a short period of time, the scientific research talents that Heiress needed gradually arrived. Wen's group opened a separate laboratory. The previous laboratory was used to research cosmetics. The laboratory developed this time will have more comprehensive equipment, and Wen's may be able to find opportunities for transformation or expansion in the future. As for the shaping underwear, Heiress directly handed it over to the scientific researchers for development. Of course, the core technology is in our own hands, but some of the equipment, production instruments, materials, etc. needed for it can be handed over. Otherwise, if he had to rely on Heiress alone, wouldn't he be extremely busy? Time passed slowly, and Heiress' life began to return to normal. Apart from signing in every day, I go to the company to handle company affairs. At the beginning, Heiress was a little unfamiliar. But within a few days, Hiyu was able to handle it with ease. This made Wen Yingyin marvel constantly. Hiyu was indeed the stock god. This learning ability is truly terrifying. In just a few days, he was able to control the entire 10 billion yuan group. As time goes by, the festival that the people of Hualong country care about very much is finally approaching. That is the Spring Festival, which means that in less than half a month, it will be the new year. The group has already started its holiday, leaving only a few employees working overtime for basic operations, while the rest of the employees have started to go home one by one to celebrate the new year. Of course, Hiyu was not stingy with the employees who worked overtime. He directly gave them several times their salary and even a little more year-end bonus. "Grandma, you really won't go back with us?" Wen Yingyin looked at the old lady and said with disappointment in her eyes. The old lady laughed. "Just accompany Xiaoyu this time. Isn't Xiaoyu's family going to get engaged next year? We can meet then, so there's no rush. You must remember, girl, to be more polite and not make your parents-in-law unhappy." Grandma taught me patiently. Hiyu said on the side. "It's okay, Grandma, there aren't so many rules in my house. Besides, Yingyin is so beautiful. If my parents see her, they will definitely like her very much." Hiyu's face was full of smiles. This was true. After all, according to his family situation, the most likely possibility is that he will just find a girl from the same village to marry in the future. But what he didn't expect was that he was so lucky that he got a rich wife because of a car accident. He followed closely behind, activated his own system, and then reached the peak of his life and married a beautiful, rich and white woman. It can be said that Hiyu's life is like a cheat, even a cheat that one would never dare to imagine. After arranging things in Shanghai, Hiyu and Wen Yingyin prepared to go home. Hiyu's hometown is in the southwestern Yilang area, which is called Anan County. Poverty and backwardness, that's what we are talking about. Hiyu's family lives deep in the mountains, and it takes several hours to drive from Anan County to their home. Of course, that was when Hiyu was studying. With the development of the country over the years, a steep and winding road was finally built. The original 3-hour journey now takes less than half an hour by car. Although the road is bad and dangerous, it is already very good. We flew directly to Gui City, and then drove directly home from there. The whole journey will probably take more than 3 hours. Hiyu said this as the two were discussing how to get back. Wen Yingyin nodded and said that driving would be the best option because she could bring more gifts back to the village. After all, this time I am going to meet Hiyu's parents and relatives. How would I feel comfortable if I don't prepare enough gifts? Then let's ship a car over. Wen Yingyin said to Hiyu that since they had to drive, renting a car would obviously not be very convenient, so they might as well just ship a car over, since they had money anyway. No, I have friends over there, and there will be a car when the time comes." Hiyu smiled and said that he got a good thing when he signed in early this morning. Wen Yingyin looked at Hiyu strangely, and finally nodded. Since Hiyu had friends, it didn't matter. Just like that, the two of them had a brief discussion and decided to buy the gifts when they arrived in your city. Then I bought the plane ticket and set off directly tomorrow morning. Chapter 17, Disney's 3% stake, 2. Today's fractured products have been refreshed. Disney 3% shares, bargain price, 7 yuan. Looking at the fractured products refreshed today, Hiyu was slightly stunned. He has been lucky these past 2 days. I just acquired a large number of shares of a non-listed company yesterday, and today, unexpectedly, I acquired shares of Disney. You know, Disney is a famous entertainment group in the United States. Among them, the famous Mickey Mouse cartoons, Disneyland, etc. are well known all over the world. Disney's current market value should be $230 billion. 3% would be worth nearly $7 billion US. Generally speaking, for a large group like Disney, which is so huge in size, even the founder cannot hold too many shares. With 3% of the shares, it is estimated that it already ranks among the top 3 shareholders within Disney. After all, the Disney family only holds a few percent of the shares. Okay, $7 for $7 billion, not bad. Hiyu smiled slightly. Although they were shares, if Hiyu wanted, he could sell them directly at any time and exchange them for money. But only a fool would sell, because Hiyu is not short of money at the moment, and these shares are golden eggs. If you hold it in your hand, you can continue to get dividends, so why sell it? By purchasing 10% of Disney's shares, He directly became one of Disney's major shareholders. His wealth once again skyrocketed by $7 billion US. Combined with the shares of the company he bought yesterday, his wealth now should make him the richest man in the country. Of course, there are many hidden rich people in the country. Hubby, let's go. Outside the door, the voice of my wife Wen Yingying was heard. He shook his head helplessly. This girl got up too early and looked very excited and nervous. It was around 5 o'clock, and she seemed to have gotten up and packed up, putting on makeup and trying on clothes. Looking at the bed and the pile of clothes, you can tell how long she has been trying on clothes. In the end, it was who made the final decision. He directly selected a few sets of clothes for her and stuffed them into the suitcase. That was the end. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't be able to pack her things by the time the plane takes off. Here it comes. He responded and then walked out of the room. After saying goodbye to Grandma, the two drove to the Magic City airport. Then I parked the car in the airport parking lot. Of course, I didn't care about the money. Finally, I went through the VIP channel, successfully picked up the ticket, and then sat in the VIP lounge to rest. Looking at Wen Yingying who was sleeping on his shoulder, he smiled dotingly. She didn't sleep well last night. He knew that she was nervous. He even asked herself dozens of times whether her parents would dislike her. No matter how he comforted her, it was useless. Looking at her sleeping face, he was still a little confused. That is, after getting to know her, he could be sure that Wen Yingying had no emotional experience. She is also a goddess with a cold personality. It is impossible for her to choose to marry me just because of my grandma's "must marry me if you rear-end a car" sticker, right? There must be some hidden story, but he did not ask, because Wen Yingying would tell him what she wanted to tell him when the time came. The so-called conspiracy theory absolutely does not exist. After all, she was an innocent person, a virgin, and was completely taken advantage of by He. But what could He, who was extremely poor, covet? They arrived early, and the boarding notice was not announced until an hour later. He woke up Wen Yingying, and then, under the guidance of the flight attendant, he went along the first-class VIP channel, got on a special car, and successfully boarded the plane. After more than 3 hours of flight, the plane finally landed at your city's airport. I'm so tired. When Wen Yingying walked out of the airport, she stretched hard and yawned. His mouth twitched. You may feel comfortable, but my shoulders are so sore. Let's go, there should be someone waiting outside. He said to Wen Yingying with a smile. Wen Yingying nodded, then took Hi's arm and followed He out of the airport. Welcome Mr. He and Mr. Wen to your city. As soon as I reached the exit, I immediately saw a striking sign in the distance. The person holding the sign was a young man. Over there. He pulled Wen Yingying over. The young man had obviously seen a photo of the two of them, and he immediately bowed and spoke respectfully. Mr. He, Mr. Wen, welcome to your city. The chairman asked me to pick you up and take you to the hotel. She has prepared a banquet there just to entertain Mr. He and Mr. Wen. Wen Yingying looked at He curiously. This friend seemed to be no ordinary person. Because the car parked behind the young man was a Rolls-Royce. Of course, if it was just a Rolls-Royce, it wouldn't be a big deal. Because Wen Yingying's family has several cars, and Wen Yingying's father's biggest hobby was cars. So there are a lot of cars in the garage at home, and now they are all owned by He and Wen Yingying. It's just that the Rolls-Royce in front of her seemed a little different, and Wen Yingying knew this car. The license plate of this car is 5/8. In this province, only Lao Ganmar's Rolls-Royce has this license plate number. So it becomes clear who Hi's friend is. Wen Yingying was a little surprised. She didn't expect that He actually knew Lao Ganmar. Although Lao Ganmar is not a listed company, its annual profit is the envy of countless listed groups. According to conservative estimates, if Lao Ganmar were to go public, its market value would certainly exceed 100 billion yuan. Chapter 18, Lao Ganmar's second largest shareholder finally arrives. One of the largest 5-star hotels in your city, the Norman Hotel, is located in the city center of your city. Lao Ganmar's Rolls-Royce drove directly here, and the hotel guy hurried forward to open the door. In the whole city of Guiyang, everyone knew this car. Get off the car, enter the hotel, and follow the driver all the way to the VIP box on the 7th floor of the hotel. As soon as I pushed the door open, I immediately saw the person sitting inside. The leader was none other than Aunt Dao of Lao Ganmar, followed by her two sons and some senior executives of the Lao Ganmar group. It can be said that the senior executives of the entire Lao Ganmar group gathered here. Mr. He, Mr. Wen, welcome to your city. Please forgive me for the poor hospitality. Lao Ganmar said this in standard Guizhou dialect. Har har har, I'm from your province too, so Aunt Dao doesn't have to deliberately speak Mandarin. He Yu said with a smile. Aunt Dao smiled slightly, and then everyone sat down. Looking at He Yu, Aunt Dao said seriously. This time, Lao Ganmar Group encountered some difficulties in its capital chain due to the financial crisis. I would also like to thank Mr. He for his investment and for not interfering in the group's affairs. Lao Ganmar said so. Yes, the valuable product that He Yu had obtained before was the shares of Lao Ganmar Group. God knows how this group, which is not listed but has extremely terrifying profits, encountered capital chain problems. He Yu didn't know how the system did it, but he only knew that he was the only shareholder of Lao Ganmar, except for Aunt Dao and her family. Holding 30% of the shares, he can be said to be the second largest shareholder. But the old rules still apply. He Yu will not interfere in the affairs of the group, which makes Lao Ganmar very grateful. When Ying felt dizzy after the meal, even though her own Wen group was also a group worth tens of billions. However, it is still far behind the popular Lao Ganmar. Lao Ganmar's market includes overseas, and it has even captured the hearts of many foreigners. He Yu is actually the major shareholder of this group that insists on not going public. How did he do it? In addition to eating, Aunt Dao actually came to find out He Yu's opinion. After getting He Yu's affirmative answer that he would never interfere in the management of the group, Aunt Dao was immediately happy. After all, Lao Ganmar Group has always been managed by herself, and after trying to hand it over to her son, major problems arose. If He Yu intervenes forcibly, it will not be a good thing for Lao Ganmar. After staying in Gui City for a few days, Lao Ganmar gave He Yu her other Rolls-Royce with a 57-ton wheels. Just let He Yu have a car to travel with when he returns to your province in the future. During these few days, He Yu visited the Lao Ganmar Group to allow some employees of the group to get to know the major shareholder. The second time is spent shopping with Wen Ying. Cosmetics, watches, various electronic products, clothes, etc. It can be said that everything that could be carried in a car was bought, even the back seat and the trunk were filled to the brim. An ultra-luxurious Rolls-Royce with 5/7 license plates, looking like it was pulling a truck. Finally, I'm going home. As they left the hotel, He Yu said with emotion while fastening his seat belt. He has only been back once since graduation. Because I have been working outside, I just want to earn a little more money and then renovate the old house for my family. Now He Yu's family still lives in a small one-story bungalow, which was built years ago when his father went to the city to do concrete work. Now that he is rich, He Yu plans to stay longer and repair his house when he goes home for the new year. There is definitely enough time. As long as you have money, you can directly invite people from a large infrastructure company in the city to come and repair it, and you can move in within a few months. When Ying looked at He Yu, who was homesick, and immediately grabbed his hand. He Yu smiled slightly. Set off. Then the two of them set off, driving directly towards Annan County at high speed. It takes about 3 hours to drive from here to Annan County, and from Annan County to my home, it takes at most half an hour. It's a 3.5-hour drive, neither long nor short. When driving, He Yu drove seriously. When Ying, who was sitting in the passenger seat, kept putting on makeup, then removing it, and then putting on makeup again, as if she was never satisfied. Looking at her nervous expression, He Yu laughed. An ugly daughter-in-law will eventually meet her parents-in-law, so there is no need to put on makeup. He Yu said with a smile. When Ying rolled her eyes, but still listened to He Yu and didn't put on any makeup. She is already very beautiful without makeup, and if she puts on too much makeup, it would be a waste of her beauty. Just apply some lipstick and that's enough. Driving all the way, I found that long-distance driving is indeed tiring. He Yu was fine, but when Ying, who was sitting in the passenger seat, had fallen asleep with her head tilted to one side. After 2 hours, we finally got off the highway and entered a rugged mountain road. Fortunately, the road has been repaired well over the years, but the bend is very big. Even though when Ying could drive, she looked a little pale, not just because she was scared, but also because she was a little carsick. After an arduous 1-hour mountain journey, we finally arrived in Annan County. Looking at the people coming and going around her, a trace of reminiscence flashed in Wen Yingying's eyes. Hiyu didn't notice that Wen Yingying had actually been here many years ago. She had come here to climb the mountain with a group of hikers. It was when her parents passed away, and it was also when she met Hiyu and some things happened. But Hiyu, this big pig's hoof, didn't remember it. Chapter 19, Returning Home in Glory Today, Having a Wife Like. As soon as they entered Annan County, Hiyu and his party attracted a lot of attention. After all, it was difficult to find such luxury cars in this remote small county. The older generation doesn't recognize it, but the young people today all know this car. Oh my god, a Rolls-Royce. A luxury car worth tens of millions. Is there an important person coming to our Annan County? The person driving the car seems quite young. Could he be a rich second generation? Everyone was talking about it, but Hiyu did not stop the car, but was eager to return home. Honey, is it time? Looking at the mountain road which was becoming increasingly deserted, Wen Yingying began to get nervous. Well, just around the hill ahead, you'll reach the entrance to the village. Hiyu said with a smile. At this moment he was also a little excited and nervous. Isn't it just to earn more money, be filial to your parents, and bring honor to them after working hard outside for many years? And now, Hiyu has returned home in glory. Of course he did not tell his parents how much money he had earned, mainly because he wanted to give them a surprise. Finally, after turning around the dangerous hill, we saw the village located deep in the mountains in the distance. Surrounded by mountains and rivers, with birds singing and flowers blooming, this place is indeed beautiful, but the transportation is really inconvenient. Of course, things have gotten much better over the years, at least vehicles can drive in. When I was studying, there was only a small mountain road. I had to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock every day and walk to the town to study. As soon as you enter the village, you will find that everyone's living conditions are much better now than many years ago. As long as the conditions are not too difficult, most people drive a small car. Although they are all cheap cars like Wuling Hongguang and Baojun, they are cars that can shelter you from wind and rain after all, right? Hey, who is this? Hiss, is this car a Rolls-Royce? It looks very expensive. Since everyone can drive, how could the people in the village not know anything about cars? I still know what kind of car it is. Even if you don't know the brand, but looking at this luxurious and noble model, you can be sure that it is definitely not cheap. Hiyu rolled down the window, looked at the villagers in front of him, and greeted them with a smile on his face. Uncle San, you didn't go out to drive your car today. The middle-aged man looked at Hiyu and was stunned for a moment. Because Hiyu's dress and appearance were somewhat different from when he was in school, I almost didn't recognize him. You are, Xiao Yuzi. Uncle San suddenly shouted in surprise that their village was called Hajir village. Basically, they all have the surname He, and they are related to each other. The number is 2 or 3 times higher, and they all come from the same family. Therefore, there are many uncles in the whole village. Har har har, it's me, third uncle. It's been almost half a year since we last met, right? Hiyu said with a smile. Uncle San tilted his head to talk to Hiyu, and immediately saw Wen Yingying sitting in the passenger seat. I was stunned at the moment. Who is this beautiful girl? Wen Yingying quickly greeted her uncle with a smile. Hello, third uncle. Although she was shy and nervous, she was a female CEO who had managed a multi-billion-dollar group, so she was not really stage frightened. Hello. Is this your wife? I heard from your parents that you got married in Shanghai. We were wondering why you didn't come home for the wedding banquet. Uncle San kept on talking and saying that in the countryside, the marriage certificate is actually less important than holding the wedding banquet. If this couple gets married without a wedding banquet, it's not really a marriage. So what third uncle meant was to tell Hiyu, hurry up and have a wedding. We all want to attend your wedding. Har har har, third uncle, I know. This time I came back to plan to repair their house and hold a wedding banquet. Uncle San nodded, and then when Yingying and Hiyu hurriedly got out of the car and gave the prepared gift, a steamed bun, directly to Uncle San. At the same time, he went door to door, delivered gifts, and invited them to his wedding in advance. When Hiyu continued to drive away, Uncle San and others looked at Hiyu's departing back and said with sighs. This little Yuzi has made it big. That car doesn't look cheap, at least $1 million, right? Also, the boy's temperament and clothing are different from before. His wife looks like she comes from a wealthy family. Everyone nodded, but they were still happy for Hiyu. Everyone in Heiress village is related to each other. When the village was closed off in the past, everyone helped each other. Therefore, in terms of relationships, it is actually very good. When one family is in trouble, all parties will come to support them. When Hiyu was a child, his father was mixing soil at a construction site in Shuepan City and was hospitalized due to an accidental injury. It was the villagers who pooled money for his treatment, so Hiyu was grateful to the villagers. When someone else is in trouble, everyone works together to help. After all, one person may not have much money, but if everyone can pool together a little, it can still solve the urgent problem. Along the way, Hiyu walked and stopped, constantly giving out gifts. After the car was much emptier, we finally arrived at the door of our home. Looking at the dilapidated one-story bungalow in front of him, Hiyu's face was full of smiles. "It's hard for you to come back with me." Hiyu looked at the tired Wen Yingying and said apologetically, after all, she had been spoiled since childhood. There are many mosquitoes in this deep mountain and the living conditions are poor. "What are you talking about, husband? After I marry you, I will be yours." "Don't say that. Even if one day you want me to farm the land with you in the mountains, I can do it," Wen Yingying said with a smile, without any disgust at all. Instead, she began to look forward to meeting Hiyu's parents nervously. Hiyu held her hand tightly. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? Chapter 20, Family Reunion, driving a Rolls-Royce to pick up. "Xiao Wei, go take a look outside. It looks like there's a car parked in front of our house." Inside the house, the mother's voice was heard. "I know." Then a young girl's voice was heard, and the door was pushed open, and a girl in a blue and white school uniform walked out. "Is this your sister, Xiao Wei?" Wen Yingying asked Hiyu nervously. Har har har, it's okay, she talks a lot, don't worry." He Wei walked out of the room and looked at the strange car in front of her eyes full of surprise. There happened to be a yard in front of her house, so it was completely normal for a car to stop there. It's just that this kind of car looks very expensive, and no one in their village drives this kind of car. However, when she walked in, she saw the people in the car. "Our brother!" He Wei exclaimed, because the person sitting in the car was Hiyu, her biological brother. "Xiao Wei, you've grown taller." Hiyu smiled and said that his sister was a third-year junior high school student and would be promoted to high school soon. These few years are a period of growth. I haven't seen my sister for more than half a year, and she has indeed grown a lot taller. Their family has good genes, and Hiyu is over 1.8 meters tall. As for my younger sister, I estimate she will grow to be around 1.7 meters tall. Wow! It's really you, bro! He Wei was immediately excited. Although the two siblings had been quarreling since they were young, Hiyu was much older than his sister after all. So he is quite caring towards his younger sister, which leads to a very good relationship between the two. Hiyu opened the car door and looked at his sister in front of him with a smile on his face. It was at this moment that Wen Yingying got out of the passenger seat and He Wei saw her. You're my sister-in-law." He Wei looked at Wen Yingying and suddenly remembered that she had seen a photo of her sister-in-law. At that moment, her face was full of surprise and she shouted directly into the room. "Mom! My brother is back with his sister-in-law." This girl has a really loud voice, which even scared Wen Yingying. Crunch! The door was opened and the mother walked out quickly. When she saw Wen Yingying standing by the car, her face immediately broke into smiles. "You are Yingying, right? You've been married for several months, and you haven't thought about coming home. We all want to see you." Although Wen Yingying would appear when Hiyu video chatted with his family, it was different from meeting in person after all. Wen Yingying felt a little embarrassed for a moment when facing her enthusiastic mother. "Hello, Auntie. I'm Wen Yingying," Mother Shuyang said directly, pretending to be unhappy. "You kid, you're married, and you still call me aunt." Wen Yingying shouted quickly. "Mother." Then his face turned red and he looked very shy. Mother Shuyang's face immediately filled with smiles. Looking at the tall and elegant Wen Yingying in front of her, she felt extremely satisfied. She never dreamed that her son would find such a good wife. What made her unhappy was that Hiyu got the marriage certificate without discussing it with them. But it looks pretty good. The girl is pretty and has a good temperament. This family situation seems to be very good, but I don't know whether they will quietly bring disaster to our family. This was what the mother was thinking at the moment. After all, when Ying's dress and outstanding temperament showed that she was a child from a wealthy family. The mother enthusiastically pulled when Ying and walked into their house. "Hey, Mom, what about me?" He looked at his mother and wife walking into their house, and suddenly shouted anxiously. "I only go home once in half a year, so why do I feel like I've been abandoned? This is your own home. Do you still need me to greet you? Just go do what you need to do. By the way, your dad will be off work soon. You can go pick him up." As the mother walked inside, she spoke to Hiyu. Hiyu suddenly smiled bitterly. When he was in college, every time he came back, didn't his mother feel very distressed? "Why do I seem to have fallen out of favor this time?" But Hiyu certainly knew that his mother went to talk to Ying about some matters between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, and it was not appropriate for him to listen. "I told my sister right away. Come, take out all the gifts I brought you, and then I'll go pick up Dad from get off work." When my sister heard that there was a gift, she became happy immediately. Then he began to diligently help Hiyu move things. "Wow. Brother, this car is too luxurious, right? My friend's father drives a BMW, but your car seems so much more luxurious than his. By the way, is this car yours or your sister-in-law's?" Hiwei asked Hiyu in surprise. "Mine," Hiyu said simply, and Hiwei immediately said no, didn't she know her own brother? "I'm just a delivery man, how can I buy such a nice car?" Hiyu was too lazy to explain what a child needed to know. After moving all the things out, Hiyu drove to where his father worked. My father no longer worked on construction sites, and through his connections he found a job at a power plant in Annan County. Although the salary is much lower than working on a construction site, it is easier. After all, because of that accident, my father's body is no longer suitable for the excessive labor on the construction site. Driving along their way, answering the questions and comments from passers-by, Hiyu arrived at the gate of Annan power plant. Hiyu parked the car there and got out to get some fresh air. After all, after driving for a whole day, staying in the car for a while longer feels like torture. Soon, at 5:30, the power plant went off work. Groups of workers walked out of the gate, all covered in dirt. The workers in the coal power plant, except for some managers, were not supposed to be very clean. In the crowd, Hiyu's sharp eyes instantly locked onto his father. "Dad!" Hiyu waved and shouted, his eyes full of smiles. Chapter 21, The family is happy and shocked. Hiyuan, who had just walked out of the power plant gate, suddenly heard someone calling him. When he looked up, he immediately saw Hiyu standing next to the car. Hiyuan, with some gray hair on his temples, suddenly smiled like a child. "Xiaoyu!" He shouted, seemingly pretending to be calm, but in fact he was walking towards Hiyu quickly. "Why are you here? Why didn't you tell us in advance? We'll go pick you up." Hiyuan said in a reproachful manner, "After all, it is quite troublesome to take a bus back from your city." If Hiyu told them so, they would just ask the uncles and aunts in the village to go and pick them up. "It's okay, Dad. I drove back by myself," Hiyu said with a smile. Only then did Hiyuan suddenly notice the Rolls-Royce next to Hiyu. Although he is just a banker, he has worked in the city and he even likes cars very much. "In the past 2 years, I have been thinking about saving some more money to buy a Baojun car worth tens of thousands of dollars. Or you can change to a Wuling Hongguang van." So Dad Hiyuan still recognized the car in front of him. He actually caught a glimpse of it just now, but he thought it was the car of the big boss of the power plant. After all, coal-fired power plants have cooperation with many coal mine owners. Those bosses often drive luxury cars such as Mercedes-Benz, Land Rover, etc. "Is this a Rolls-Royce? Where did you get it? If this is borrowed, you should return it to the owner as soon as possible. This kind of car is easy to get scratched in our countryside." Dad Hiyuan taught him this way. After all, if a luxury car of this level gets even a slight scratch, the cost of repainting it would be extremely expensive. "Har har har, Dad, this car is mine. But I'll tell you the details when I get back. Let's get in the car and go home," Hiyu said with a smile. Dad was a little hesitant, but was still forced into the passenger seat by Hiyu. Although his body is very dirty, as the saying goes, a son will never dislike his mother's ugliness. Not to mention that he drives a Rolls-Royce worth tens of millions. Even if he drives a super sports car worth hundreds of millions, He would be willing to let his father sit in it. After all, I was able to grow up this big because my dad did all the dirty and tiring work to raise me, right? Speaking of which, this time when he came back, he also planned to find some work for his parents. At least they don't have to work so hard anymore. My mother went to the town bank to cook for people. As for my father, he worked in a coal-fired power plant, which was very tiring and hard work. Soon, he brought his father back home. As soon as I arrived at the door of my house, I saw my sister making a fire. "Hey, you made a fire. Want to eat wood-fired chicken today?" He smiled slightly. His mother's firewood chicken was a specialty and he liked it very much. At the same time, Mother and Wen Ying walked out of the room. Wen Ying was holding some vegetables in her hands, apparently she was helping her mother pick them. She had a smile on her face, and it was obvious that she was getting along well with her mother. "You're back." Mother Shuyang looked at Father He Yuan and said, then frowned. "Go take a shower, it's no use being so dirty, the horse will eat." The father was stunned, and then looked at Wen Ying. In front of his son's wife, his image was indeed not very good. "Okay, I'll go right away." My dad immediately went into the room and went to take a shower. In the backyard of He Yu's house, his father specially built a bathroom. Although it was simple, it at least had complete facilities. This was built by my father after my sister grew up. Otherwise, He Yu and his father He Yuan in the past would have just jumped into the creek and gotten the job done. At dinner time, the family had a lively meal. Although Wen Ying is from Shanghai, she can actually eat spicy food. Because Wen Ying's family's ancestral home is in Jiangxi, but their household registration has been moved to Shanghai since their grandfather's generation. In essence, Wen Ying's taste is still on the spicy side. Therefore, she can also eat this firewood chicken. After dinner, Wen Ying followed her sister and mother to clean up and wash the dishes, while He Yu sat in the yard and chatted with his father. "Tell me, what's going on?" Dad asked. He thought He Yu was a gigolo. After all, Wen Ying looked like a child from a wealthy family, and he was worried that He Yu would become a son-in-law. Of course, Wen Ying is a very good girl, and they have no choice if she really becomes their son-in-law. But if He Yu did this without discussing it with them, it would be a bit too much. Actually, it's like this. I've been doing this for a little while now. Didn't the global financial crisis break out some time ago? I made a little money in the stock market thanks to the financial crisis. He Yu smiled and said, "It's really just a few $100 million. How many?" He Yuan asked while smoking a cigarette. "Well, tens of millions." He Yu hesitated for a moment, but still said a super conservative number in his mind. "What? Who knew?" My dad was still shocked. "Tens of millions. Is that true?" He Yu nodded seriously. Fortunately, he didn't say too much, otherwise his father might be scared by him. Chapter 22, A Manor of More Than 10 Acres, Sign in 3. Life back home is much more relaxed. What He Yu does every day is to take Wen Ying to travel around. At the same time, the marriage arrangements between He Yu and Wen Ying were also finalized. After a video call discussion between Grandma Wen Ying and He Yu's parents, they finally decided to hold He Yu's wedding in his hometown. Although transportation here is inconvenient, He Yu's relatives are all here. If it were held in Shanghai, it would be very troublesome for them to make the trip. Although He Yu could reimburse the travel expenses, it was inevitable that many people would not be able to attend due to various reasons. So in the end, the two decided to hold it in their hometown. Now that he has decided to get married, He Yu has to start preparing. First repair their house in my hometown, and then we can hold the wedding. Buzz buzz buzz. On this day, many trucks drove into Heiress village. What are all these cars here for? It seems that He Lau's family is going to renovate their house. Xiao Yu has made a fortune in Shanghai. It is said that the car he drove is worth at least millions. The He family has worked hard all their lives, and finally the hardship has paid off. He Yu did not plan to build a new house on the foundation of his old house. Instead, he found a relative and bought all of his family's more than 10 acres of land. Then prepare to build a large manor with a Chinese-style courtyard. His parents have worked hard all their lives, so He Yu naturally doesn't want them to continue to work hard. He Yu has asked both of them to resign from their jobs at the power plant and the bank. It doesn't matter if they don't do anything in the future, because He Yu's money is enough for them to spend for a lifetime and they will never be able to spend it all. The construction company we hired is the largest construction group in your city. It is no big deal for them just to build a Chinese-style courtyard covering an area of more than 10 acres for themselves. The requirement was to complete the decoration and move in within 3 months, and he would pay them no matter what materials they used or how many people they employed. What is needed is speed and quality. There was a change almost every day, and the speed of construction shocked everyone in the village. Of course, the courtyard built by the He family became widely known, and even the entire Annan County had heard of it. Some people even came to see what kind of house it was, as it was said to be so miraculous. When they found out that it was a courtyard covering more than 10 acres, everyone was shocked. How did the He family get rich to be so wealthy? The Daily Fracture product has been updated, please check it. In the early morning, He listened to their voice in his head and smiled slightly. He has gotten used to it now, and checks the refreshed Fracture items every morning. Although some luxury goods are still produced now, He can no longer bear to see them. For example, yesterday a top-of-the-line version of the BMW X7 was released. It was specially customized and equipped with various carbon fiber materials, bulletproof glass, etc. But even this car is worth less than 3 million. After all, the top-of-the-line BMW X7 only costs close to 2 million. For this level of broken goods did not make him feel emotional at all. After all, there are quite a few cars of this price in Wan Ying's warehouse. However, there are still good things to sign in. The most expensive thing in Wan Ying's family is just a customized Rolls-Royce, which costs less than 20 million. 2 days ago, He signed for 3 cars. That's right, 3 cars were signed in at one time, and these 3 cars were the famous 3 legendary cars: McLaren P1, Porsche 911, and Ferrari LaFerrari. These 3 cars are known as the 3 great cars in the sports car world. Although they may not be the most expensive sports cars, after all, there are many sports cars that cost tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. But these 3 cars will always be the gods in the hearts of many sports car enthusiasts. Owning one is enough to satisfy you for a lifetime. However, the 3 legendary cars are not only expensive, but also extremely rare. Many super rich people and second-generation rich people only have one of them. It is still relatively easy to get a red oil Porsche 918 or something like that. For example, the most difficult to get is the LaFerrari. You need to own 3 Ferraris to be eligible to buy it. Therefore, to own the 3 legendary cars at the same time, at least hundreds of millions, or even billions of yuan must be allocated to them. He asked the system to bring the 3 magical cars to Wan Ying's home in the Magic City. As for the BMW X7, He directly asked the system to deliver it to his home, and then leave it to his father as a commuter vehicle. After all, the mountain roads in this area are very bad, and as the largest and top-of-the-line SUV model in the BMW family, its off-road performance is still good. Therefore, if I leave it to my dad, it will be much more convenient for him to go anywhere. After all, my dad has always wanted to buy a car. But his biggest wish is just a Wuling Hongguang. Now He satisfied him and directly got him a customized BMW X7 worth more than 3 million yuan. Xiao, go check quickly. There's a tow truck at your door. They said they are delivering your car. At this time, He was supervising the construction of the new house, and then an uncle ran over and said to He, "Oh, sorry to bother you, Uncle Wu. I'll be right there." Chapter 23, Give Dad a BMW X7. Sure enough, when he arrived at the door of his house, He saw the black car with the trailer. It's really huge. I have to say, as the largest SUV model in the BMW family, its size alone is very nice. You know, the BMW X7 is a large SUV. Even the Toyota Prado, which is loved by many tough guys, is just a medium to large SUV, which is slightly smaller. This is enough to show how big the BMW X7 is. Xiao, what's wrong with this car? Father He Yuan looked at He and asked, but he kept stealing glances at the car. Obviously he liked it very much. Har har har, this was given to me by a friend. I thought I wouldn't need it, so I just gave it to you, Dad. You can use it as a scooter from now on. He said so. My dad was shocked, and so were the relatives and friends around him. They have never seen or recognized other luxury cars. But the car in front of them is one that many big bosses drive, so they naturally recognize it. This is a BMW. It costs hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. The car in front of me looks so domineering, it must be not cheap. Maybe it is a car worth more than 1 million. In fact, the ordinary X7 does cost more than 1 million yuan, but this one is the top of the line customized version, worth more than 3 million yuan. Is this really okay? And this is too expensive, isn't it? Your friend actually gave you a car like this? He Yuan said in shock. Wen Yingying smiled slightly. Dad, it's okay. The car we drove here before was worth tens of millions. It was also given to me by my husband's friend. In fact, a gift of this value is really nothing to people of their level. After all, even Wen Yingying is worth hundreds of billions. When he gives gifts to his friends, the amount is often hundreds of thousands or millions. Hiss. Everyone gasped again. The car that He Yu drove before was indeed not cheap. It was actually worth tens of millions. It was even given to them by someone else, which shocked everyone. You have to know that in order for someone to send you such a precious gift, you must first of all have a noble status, so that others will be willing to send you such a precious gift just to maintain a good relationship with you. So, He Yu really made a fortune. I don't know what business he is doing in Modu, but he is so rich now. Well, if that's the case, then stay. The father looked at the car and finally couldn't help but said so. He Yu smiled slightly and decided to stay. After all, he knew that his father loved cars. No matter who buys a new car, he will go and take a look. If you come across a nice car, you will be even more excited. But before, every time he went to see it, he wanted to touch it but didn't dare to, because he was worried that someone else would damage it. I have a driver's license but I never drive a car. I envy others. This time, He Yu fulfilled his father's dream and even exceeded the limit. This matter has come to an end. Since I got this car. He Yu's father disappeared early in the morning every day and came back after dark. My mother kept mumbling something like, "I'm just showing off." But in fact, He Yu can fully understand his father's feelings. He still remembers that when he was a child, after he learned to ride a bicycle for the first time, he wanted to ride it every day and show off in front of others. Men will do the same if they buy a new car. They can't help but drive it around every day and show off. Hey, this kid finally knew to call me. While eating, He Yu's cell phone suddenly rang. Who is it? Wen Yingying asked curiously, because looking at He Yu's expression, he seemed very happy. Oh, a childhood friend of mine. This kid and I grew up together, but now he seems to be working in Shuipan City. I was planning to visit him in 2 days, but I didn't expect him to call me. While explaining to Wen Yingying, He Yu stood up and answered the call. Looking at He Yu who went out to make a phone call, the mother smiled slightly and said to Wen Yingying, "That boy's name is He Xiao. He is the child of He Yu's second uncle. He failed the high school entrance exam and stopped studying. I think he's working as a car salesman in Shuipan City now. He's quite capable. He built the 3-story Western-style house in his home." Mother Shuyang said this, and seemed to approve of He Xiao. After all, compared with the leading children in the village, although he did not go to college, he was really outstanding. But, they got married 2 years ago, and now their child is 1 year old. You two, work hard. Wen Yingying blushed immediately, but still nodded seriously. She has been working very hard. She got pregnant afterward, but she just couldn't get pregnant, and she was anxious. By the way, speaking of which, that kid He Xiao once saved Xiao Yu's life. Xu Yang seemed to have thought of something, and for a moment, her mood was a little complicated. When Yingying was startled, and Xu Yang continued. In fact, the boy himself didn't know. It was a few years ago, when he had just finished the college entrance examination. He was deep in the mountains, covered in wounds. His head had several large holes in it, and the snow was stained red. The following is about He Xiao, the kid, who braved the heavy snow and was frozen blue all over, and finally found Xiaoyu in the mountains. Although Xiaoyu was rescued, he lost his memory of that period due to severe brain trauma and frostbite. We guess that the boy encountered a wild boar or a tiger in the forest. Xu Yang didn't notice that when she said this, when Yingying's body began to tremble and even tears were flashing. I see, that's why. No wonder he doesn't remember what happened back then. I said, although my appearance has changed a little from now, it was such a big and thrilling thing, how could I not remember it? When Yingying talked to herself. Chapter 24, The Story of a Childhood Friend Punching a Tiger. When Yingying had never figured it out before. Although she wore black framed glasses at the time, her image was different from what it is now. There was a little difference. But how could He forget such a life and death crisis and not remember himself at all? It turns out that the truth is that He was seriously injured and lost his memory. This can explain why he doesn't remember himself. After all, when Ingyin still remembers what happened back then. Later, after she escaped, she led the police to search for He again. But that year happened to be the year of snow disaster for the whole province. The mountains were blocked by heavy snow and the snow was up to your knees if you stepped on it. So there was no trace of him at all, and He could not be found for several days. Even after returning to Shanghai, when Ingyin continued to use her family connections to look for He. In fact, she was still looking for it until she was rear-ended by He. But what no one expected was that He came here on his own initiative, and was safe and sound, without being killed by the human traffickers. I met the person I had been caring about for years, the person who sacrificed his life to give me a chance of survival when I was most desperate. These past experiences of being a hero saving beauties are actually the reason why when Ingyin insisted on holding He responsible and marrying him after being rear-ended. However, He was kept in the dark at this time. He really couldn't figure out what shining points he had that made when Ingyin noticed him. Then when Ingyin began to ask in detail about what happened afterwards, while outside the door. You finally knew to call me, didn't you? He said to He Xiao on the other end of the phone with a smile on his face that the two grew up together, and even if they haven't seen each other for a few years, as long as they meet, they have endless things to talk about, and they are absolutely good friends. Even when he was attacked by a tiger in the mountains and almost died, it was this guy who saved him. That's right, He lost his memory, but he always believed that he was attacked by a tiger. Because when He Xiao found himself, he saw footprints of a tiger around him. Then when we got back to the village, the story became another version through the mouth of He Xiao. When he was at Yushan, he encountered a tiger and fought a desperate battle with it. In the end, he drove the tiger away, but he himself was seriously injured and dying. This was the version that He Xiao had come up with. Since they were little, the two of them had always liked to brag about each other like this. This is why He, who had just woken up, also believed this firmly. I'm even complacent about it, and whenever I'm having a good chat with someone, I like to bring this up. He would often show the scars on his body to others, which was quite interesting. Har 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 har, my dad told me that you're back. How about we get together? Most of the class has returned for the new year, and the class monitor said we should get together. It's been a while since we last saw each other. He and He Xiao went to high school in Shuipan City because the high school in Anan County was too bad. The two were boarding students and went directly to their high school in the city. It's just that He is a little more obedient, while He Xiao often climbs over the wall to skip classes. There is a strong social atmosphere, people know how to have fun and talk. Perhaps this is also the reason why he is so successful in car sales at this time. He hesitated for a moment. In fact, he mainly wanted to get together with He Xiao, but since the class monitor invited him and all the classmates would come, he might as well go. Okay, tell me the time and I'll come straight to you then. He said so. Then let's meet at Qindar Plaza at noon the day after tomorrow, har har har. Then he chatted briefly with He Xiao, and invited him to come back and attend his wedding, and then hung up the phone. When he returned home, He was suddenly stunned. Because he saw that both his mother and Wen Ingyin had dizzy eyes. What's going on? He was shocked. Did they watch a Korean drama together? Why did she cry like this? Oh, it's okay. I just told you about that time when you encountered the tiger. Mother Shuyang wiped her eyes and said. The corner of Hiyu's mouth twitched. So that's it. Husband. When Ingyin hugged Hiyu tightly, not wanting to let go. The mother smiled slightly and hurried out. Hiyu was a little embarrassed for a moment, but looking at Wen Ingyin with red eyes, he still touched her head with heartache. It's okay, it's okay. This happened many years ago. Look, my husband's military medals are so impressive, aren't they? Even a tiger can't beat me. Hiyu said this with a smug look on his face, which made Wen Ingyin burst out laughing. Buried in Hiyu's arms, Wen Ingyin said secretly in her heart. This time, I won't run away first. I want to be with you forever, no matter what happens. Wen Ingyin was determined and hugged Hiyu tightly. Hiyu was also very surprised. No matter how scared he was by what happened back then, it shouldn't be like this, right? But he still hugged his wife tightly and comforted her softly. Chapter 25, Going to the Class Reunion, Classmates. Honey, how about this one? When Ying changed into a white long dress and turned in front of Hiyu. No, your calves are showing. Hiyu said very seriously. When Ying pouted immediately. It was just a calf showing, so why was it not okay? Finally, under the pressure of someone, she had no choice but to change into tight jeans, short sleeves, and casual clothes, which were full of youthful beauty. No one would have thought that she was already a wife. After changing clothes, Hiyu and his friends prepared to set off. They were going to attend a class reunion today, so Hiyu naturally had to take Wen Ying with him. Because Hiyu asked, everyone who has a girlfriend or is married will bring their family with them. Here, people generally get married early. Many of Xiao's classmates dropped out of high school like he did. While you are still in college, others may have already started a family and a career. Therefore, everyone will bring their families to this gathering. So of course Hiyu had to take his wife with him. After all, if he didn't take her, she would probably get upset. Dad, let me drive you today. The mountain road out is a bit complicated. Your car is much easier to drive. Hiyu said to his father Hiyuan. If you want a car, just drive that Rolls-Royce. Hiyu said with a smile. Hiyuan was immediately delighted, as he had wanted to try that car for a long time. No problem, drive safely. Driving his father's X7, Hiyu took Wen Ying and left Hajir village and headed towards Anan County. Prepare to take the highway from there and go directly to Shuipan City. The entire journey takes less than 2 hours when Hiyu and his classmates were studying there. They would stay there for a week and then come back on Friday night by bus or illegal taxi. This happens every week, so it is quite hard for the kids here to study. After all, if you want to receive a good education, you can only go to the city, and transportation is not convenient. It would be much more convenient if there were highways or something like that. It's a pity that even in Shuipan City, a prefecture-level city, the expressway was only opened at the end of last year. If we want to popularize it in towns and villages, it will probably take more than 10 years or even dozens of years of development to achieve this. As expected, driving these two big X7s is much more comfortable. You can drive through the bumpy roads directly without worrying at all. We sped all the way and got off the highway in less than half an hour, then entered Shuipan City. Looking at the familiar Shuipan City, Hiyu's eyes were full of memories. Honey, look, there's a mutton noodle restaurant over there, it's really delicious. When I was a sophomore in high school, Xiao and I deposited all the living expenses we saved every week here. Hiyu pointed at a mutton noodle restaurant and said to Wen Ying. Wen Ying just nodded with a smile on her face, responding to Hiyu. Look, that's the busiest red light street here. It's full of tea bars, snacks, and KTVs. That kid Xiao used to come here often when he was in high school. Hiyu said with a smile. What about you? Have you ever been there? Hiyu suddenly felt something was wrong. No. Xiao has a lot of friends, and someone treated him to a meal. I didn't have the spare money to do that at that time. This was indeed the case. After all, he was still a student at that time. Due to his poor family conditions, his weekly living expenses were only more than 100 yuan. This amount of money is not even enough for a couple of drinks here. After all, he was living on campus at that time and could eat at school. Their $100+ was because his parents felt sorry for Hiyu and wanted to save it for him so that they could buy whatever they wanted to eat and use. After driving all the way, we finally arrived at Qingdao Plaza. Qingdao Plaza can be found in almost all major cities across the country. Lao Wang, the big boss of Qingdao Plaza, was once the richest man in the country. However, he encountered some problems recently, which caused his assets to shrink a lot. However, Qingdao Plaza is still a landmark building in major cities, and housing prices in the surrounding areas remain high. At the entrance to the open-air parking lot, a group of people stood there. Hiyu saw Xiao from a distance. This kid was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and big shorts, just like before. In fact, Hiyu's outfit today was similar to his, both were casual. It's just a reunion of old classmates, and if I show up in a suit, it will make everyone feel awkward. Beep, beep, beep. After entering the parking lot, Hiyu honked the horn a few times, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Rolling down the car window, Hiyu shouted at Xiao. Xiaoer. This must be the exclusive name He calls him, which he calls father calling son. But in reality, every time when they had a group fight when they were young, He Xiao always protected He. Because He Xiao has been a gangster since he was young, and He is a child from another family, otherwise he would not have been admitted to a top university. Hey, Yuko-chan. When He Xiao saw He looked at his car in surprise. Fuck. My dad didn't lie to me. You really have made a fortune. I heard that you gave your father a BMW. Could it be this X7? He Xiao was surprised. He was a car salesman, so he could naturally tell that this was the top of the line X7. Even with the added carbon fiber components, this car is definitely more expensive than you might think. Har har har, I'm going to go park first. The people behind me are honking their horns. We'll talk later. He said with a smile, then drove the car in and looked for a parking space. The classmates looked at He back as he drove away and sighed. He is such an amazing kid. It looks like he's really rich. He's driving a BMW X7, which costs more than $1,000,000 yuan. And it looks like this isn't even a low-end model. Didn't you hear He Xiao say that this was a gift for his father? It means he drives a better car. The classmates were all shocked and exclaimed. It turned out that those who were at the top of the class since childhood were different. It seems that their children still have to study in the future. What they didn't know was that He used to work as a delivery man in Shanghai. Chapter 26, A Class Reunion Without Showing Off Wealth. After parking the car, He came over with Wen Yingying. Everyone was stunned when they saw Wen Yingying. Although they all heard that He was married, few people knew He's WeChat, so they had never met Wen Yingying. This is my sister-in-law, right? Hello sister-in-law, my name is He Xiao. He Xiao looked at Wen Yingying, touched her head and greeted her. Although he got married earlier than He, that was because he entered society early and did not go to college. In terms of age, he is about a few months younger than He. Come on, let's go. You are the only ones missing. Let's go in first. Suddenly, the group entered Qiandao Plaza. Although it was a class reunion, most of the people were no longer in Shuipan City. So there are actually less than 10 students who will come to participate. Therefore, everyone chose Qiandao Plaza as their dining place. The group entered a pickled fish shop. Inside the box, I pushed open the door and saw some female classmates already sitting there. At the same time, everyone's family members are here. In a large private room, 2 large round tables are full and the atmosphere looks quite lively. Wow, it's you. Long time no see, this is my sister-in-law, right? She's so beautiful. Har har har, I heard from that kid He Xiao that you made a fortune in the Magic City. It's true. Although, many class reunions are a gathering to show off wealth. But these classmates are different, not because they are so tall, but because they have nothing to show off. They are all children from ordinary families, and most of them even come from rural areas. Among them, there are quite a few people like He Xiao who dropped out of school after graduating from high school. No matter how good our development is, it is just like that. Most of them work for others as employees, and the few better ones just run small businesses. For example, opening a small restaurant, or opening a store to sell things. Therefore, everyone's conditions are similar, so naturally no one shows off their wealth. If we were to say who is most qualified to show off his wealth in the audience, it would actually be He. He could see that his classmates were a little embarrassed. Perhaps they knew that he came in an X7 and were worried that he would look down on them. But after a few simple words of communication, everyone felt relieved. He is still the same He as before. He does not think he is superior to others or look down on them just because he has become rich. This class reunion was quite harmonious. By the way, have you heard? Liu Yao's family is bankrupt. It is said that they are in debt of several million. In addition to being a teacher, Liu Yao is now working as a part-time tutor after school to pay off the family's debts. One of the classmates may have drunk too much and suddenly revealed a shocking piece of information. Everyone was stunned. No way. Isn't Liu Yao's family very rich? How come they are suddenly in debt? When He heard the word Liu Yao, his ears suddenly moved. Of course, it wasn't because he and Liu Yao had any past, but because he had received a favor from Liu Yao. It's just that the two have not been in touch since they graduated from high school. As for Penguin account, with the emergence of WeChat, few people log in anymore. Now we always use WeChat account. I had been thinking about coming back this time and visiting Lu Yao's house. After all, she had really helped Hiyu's family a lot back then. What happened to Lu Yao's family? Hiyu asked, when Yingying looked at Hiyu but didn't say much. He knew that since Hiyu asked, he must have his reasons. Although the other party is a girl, when Yingying believes in Hiyu. I know about this. Xiao Yu, many of you came back from other provinces because of the Chinese New Year. Doesn't Lu Yao's family own an amusement park? After Disney became popular, his father followed suit and opened an amusement park, although it's very small. But in our Shuipan city, it is still quite famous. However, after a Disneyland opened in Gui City a few years ago, and the high-speed rail was opened, it only takes half an hour to get to Gui City from here. So if people want to go out for fun, they will choose to go to Disneyland in your city. Add to that various other things, and Lu Yao's amusement park is ruined. Not only the money, but also the house and the car are all lost. We are even in debt of several million, which is pretty miserable. Xiao said so. This kid has been like this since he was in school. He is always well informed. As long as there is something you want to know, there is nothing he can't find out. Hiyu suddenly realized what was going on. He immediately asked everyone, "Do you have Lu Yao's contact information? His Penguin account has not been logged in for several years, and I have been unable to find any new contact information." Sure enough, Xiao jumped out again. I have it. Her Penguin account was stolen and she has never been able to get it back. Now she uses WeChat. The corner of Hiyu's mouth twitched. You even know this? You are indeed well informed. After asking for Lu Yao's cell phone number, Hiyu and the others continued to eat. After finishing his meal, he said goodbye to his classmates. Amid everyone's envious looks, Hiyu drove when Yingying, following behind Xiao's car, towards his home. Originally, Hiyu wanted to stay in a hotel, but Xiao refused to do so, saying that they had come to Shuipan City, his territory, so how could they stay in a hotel? So Hiyu had no choice but to take Wen Yingying to Xiao's house. This kid is really promising. Not only has he built a small Western-style house for his family, he has even bought a house in the city. Although the monthly car loan and mortgage payments are stressful, it is still acceptable. Chapter 27, A Drop of Water, Qiandar Groups. Who is classmate Lu Yao? When Yingying asked hesitantly, not daring to ask loudly for fear that Hiyu would be unhappy. Hiyu smiled slightly, stretched out his right hand and rubbed her head hard. What are you thinking, idiot? That's just my high school classmate. Didn't I tell you that my father used to work as a concrete builder on a construction site? Because of a mistake at work, I was seriously injured, and then I was treated and recovered. But the doctor said that I couldn't do heavy work for at least a year, and at that time, my family's financial support came from my father. My sister and I both need to study. If my father can't work, our family will be ruined. Hiyu said with eyes full of reminiscence. When Yingying held Hiyu's hand, her eyes full of heartache. But it was at this time that my classmate Lu Yao found out about this. At that time, her family was a well-known wealthy family in our Shuipan city. The amusement park he opened was very profitable at the time. He was a well-known rich second generation in our school. She told her father about it, and her father was also a kind-hearted man, so he found my father right away. I arranged a leisurely job as a security guard at the amusement park for my father, and the salary is quite high. A year later, my father recovered, and then he chose to resign because he felt embarrassed. So I've always remembered this incident, but he was a rich second generation and had everything he needed, so I don't know how to repay him. If Lu Yao's family is in danger now, how can I not help them? When Yingying suddenly realized that there was such a thing. If that's the case, then we must indeed help. Soon, we drove to Mingzhu Villa, which is the name of the community. From here, it is only a 10-minute walk to Qiandar Plaza. If you drive, you have to take a DT because it's a one-way street, but it's not much closer. But this location is really good. Xiao was lucky at the beginning. He bought a house here before Qiandar Plaza was built. Now, it has increased a lot, so I can be considered to have made a lot of money. They entered the parking lot on the underground third floor, parked the car, and then Xiao took the two of them into the elevator. Come to think of it, this is your first time coming to my house, right? Xiao said with a smile. Yeah. When I came back last year, your place hadn't been renovated yet. He Yu smiled and said that he had owned this house for several years, but he had no money to renovate it, so he did not start decorating it until the beginning of this year. I was going to take my wife with me today, but I found out that my child had a slight cold, so I didn't take her with me. He Xiao said with a smile as he led the two of them out of the elevator. Arriving at the door of the room, He Xiao smelled his body, and after making sure that he did not smell of alcohol, he started knocking on the door. He had a faint fragrance, obviously he had sprayed perfume in the car. He Yu sighed a little. The gangster in the past has become so gentle after becoming a father. When Ying held He Yu's hand and said secretly in her heart, "If I give birth to a child for him, he will be like this, right?" Knock, knock. After knocking on the door, a voice suddenly sounded in the house. "Here it comes." Not long after, a woman who was slightly shorter than a man and looked like a middle-aged woman walked out. This is He Xiao's wife, Liu Mai. He Yu had naturally seen her before, and he had seen her many times when he was dating He Xiao. When they got married, He Yu was the best man. "Brother Yu is here. Is this my sister-in-law? Please come in." Liu Mai is an honest country girl, very young. She is 2 years younger than He Xiao and He Yu. It is said that when they got married, they couldn't even get a marriage certificate. "Dad." At the same time, a childish voice was heard in the house. He Xiao's face immediately filled with smiles. He quickly walked into their house and then half knelt on the ground. Looking at his son running towards him with difficulty, he quickly hugged him in his arms. "Son, do you miss your dad?" When Ying looked at this scene with envy in her eyes. "Hubby, I also want to give birth to a child for you," she whispered in He Yu's ear. He Yu smiled slightly. "We will have it. We will have it. When the time comes, our child will definitely be cuter than this boy." Unexpectedly, He Xiao heard it and turned around. "Then I curse you to give birth to a daughter." He Yu was overjoyed. "Har har har, that's why I like my daughter. Little cotton-padded jacket, how nice." Unexpectedly, He Xiao actually counterattacked directly. "It's just right. She can marry my son and become his daughter-in-law in the future." He Yu suddenly became furious and grabbed He Xiao's head and began to threaten him. His son looked confused. The child obviously still remembered He Yu, because every time He Yu came, he would bring him delicious food. "I just don't know why my dad started fighting with my uncle. Don't mind it, sister-in-law. They are like this every time they meet." Liu Mai entertained when Ying while she sat on the sofa and said, "At the previous class reunion, there were just too many people and the two of them restrained themselves. When I arrived at He Xiao's house, my nature was immediately liberated." In the early morning, lying on the bed in He Xiao's house, a voice sounded in He Yu's mind. "Today's fractured goods have been updated, please check it out." He Yu calmly opened the broken goods. He was used to it as he did this every day. Chen Group 20% shares discount price, 37 yuan. Looking at this broken product, He Yu was slightly stunned. He had just gone to Qingda Group for dinner today and got this broken product. Not bad. Although Qingda Group has declined a bit due to debt, it is still worth hundreds of billions. 20% of the shares are worth 20 billion yuan, so the 37 yuan is not a loss. He Yu smiled slightly, and then fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 28, Helping Others and Preparing to Open a. The next day, after breakfast, Liu Mai took her child to the hospital. As for He Xiao, he was going to class. He is a gold medal salesperson at a Mercedes-Benz for S dealership. He took a leave yesterday for a class reunion. Otherwise, he is still very busy because many of his clients' friends will contact him if they want to buy a car. He Yu thought that the other person was also very busy, so he said goodbye directly. Before leaving, he invited He Xiao to attend his wedding. The specific time has not been decided yet. Once the time is confirmed, He Yu will start sending out invitations directly. After leaving He Xiao's house, He Yu drove to Lu Yao's house according to the address given by He Xiao. "I heard about Lu Yao's situation yesterday. I should repay a drop of kindness with a spring. She helped my family in the past, and now her family is in big trouble. Since He Yu has the ability to help, he will not just sit there and do nothing. Is this their way? Looking at the dilapidated community in front of me, these should be old houses built decades ago. They are all walk-up buildings and there are some cracks on the outside. It is hard to imagine that this wealthy family, once a famous family in Shuipan City, actually lives here now. Let me make a phone call. He Yu took out his cell phone and dialed the number He Xiao gave him. This was Lu Yao's contact information. I just don't know if Lu Yao is at home today. Because she is currently working as a middle school teacher, but today is the weekend, so I don't know if she has gone to tutoring. After all, Lu Yao is a part-time tutor now. Beep, beep, beep. After a few rings, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice came from the other end of the phone. Compared to when she was studying, Lu Yao's voice is more mature. After all, everyone has grown from 17 or 18-year-old young boys and girls to adults in their 20s. Hello, how are you? May I ask who you are? Lu Yao asked doubtfully. He Yu said with a smile. Hello, classmate Lu Yao, it's me, He Yu. Hearing He Yu's voice, Lu Yao was stunned. He Yu? You're back. Lu Yao's voice sounded a little surprised. After all, she hadn't seen He Yu for many years. Ever since her Penguin account was stolen, she hadn't found any new ways to contact him. Of course, if you really want to find the contact information, you can still find it. Just ask your classmates. But the question is, who would contact whom without a suitable reason? After all, after graduating from high school, everyone dropped out of school or went to college. Everyone has their own things to do, so there is no reason to keep in touch. If we go back to Shuipan City, we can get together when we have free time. I'm downstairs from your house right now. This address was given to me by He Xiao, but I don't know if it's correct. He Yu said with a smile. Wait a minute. Lu Yao hung up the phone anxiously, and then ran downstairs. Not long after, a woman in tight pants walked out from the unit's staircase. As expected, it was still the familiar Lu Yao, exuding a scholarly air. But compared to her youthful appearance, she is much more mature now. He Yu. Long time no see. When Lu Yao saw He Yu, she was a little surprised. However, when she saw Wen Yingyin holding He Yu's arm, a hint of surprise and helplessness flashed across her eyes. But she hid it well and asked He Yu with a smile. Who is this? He Yu smiled slightly. This is my wife. Hearing He Yu's words, Lu Yao was shocked. Is he already married? Lu Yao didn't have too many emotional fluctuations. After all, even though she had some initial affection, 5 years had passed since high school. It's my sister-in-law. Come on, why are you standing here? Come sit down. As they were talking, Lu Yao took the two of them upstairs. Lu Yao's house is on the second floor, which is not very high. Entering the room, the decoration is simple and rustic, which seems to be the decoration style from many years ago. My house and everything else were auctioned off to pay off the debts. This house belongs to my second aunt. At present, it is said to be rented to my family, but in fact it is free for my family to live in. Otherwise, my family wouldn't even have a place to live. Lu Yao said bitterly. Her family used to be quite wealthy and they lived in a villa, which made many of her classmates envious. I don't know how many classmates are interested in her. After all, as long as you marry her, you will have no worries for the rest of your life. But who knows, there will be unexpected changes in the world. Unexpectedly, Lu Yao's family encountered such a thing, which led to bankruptcy and even millions of debts. Lu Yao, I won't say anything more. My father was unable to do physical work after surgery, so it was thanks to my uncle's help. The reason I came here today is to repay this favor. I am ready to help you pay off your family's debts. Of course, if I give you money directly, I'm sure your uncle won't agree given his temper. I want to build a large amusement park here, and I want to ask your uncle to be the director. I will give him some dividends, several $1 million, just as an advance payment. He Yu spoke quickly, not giving Lu Yao any time to react. Chapter 29, Super Large Amusement Park, next to the mountain. Hey, classmate He Yu, are you telling the truth? Lu Yao asked in disbelief. It was not that she doubted him, but she knew the situation of He Yu's family clearly. A typical rural accent. When he was in high school, He Yu had no more than 300 yuan in his pocket. So, it is no wonder that Lu Yao does not believe He Yu now that he wants to take out millions to pay off her family's debts and even wants to open a large amusement park. He Yu smiled slightly, took out his mobile phone, opened a page and handed it to Lu Yao. You can take a look and see if I have the ability. Lu Yao looked at He Yu in confusion, and finally took the phone. But after seeing what was displayed on the screen, Liu Yao was stunned. Disney, equity distribution. The third largest shareholder, He, is from Hualong country and controls 3% of Disney's shares. Liu Yao was shocked. As a college student, and her family used to run an amusement park, she must know Disney very well. Disney is an entertainment company that used to make cartoons, and its characters such as Mickey Mouse are deeply rooted in people's hearts. Then they transformed themselves and opened theme parks, which became a huge hit and spread all over the world, making huge amounts of money. Disney's current market value is more than $230 billion. If it is a 3% stake, it would be worth about $7 billion. If converted into RMB, that would be more than 50 billion. Is this true or not? How did He suddenly become so rich? It was simply unbelievable. You can check it out. This is a global authoritative website. As long as it is a municipal group and shareholders who can enter the shareholders meeting, they can be found here. He said with a smile. When Inian was also very shocked at this time. She didn't know that He was actually the third largest shareholder of Disney. Ever since the financial crisis, He seems to have become unfathomable. Could it be that after the financial crisis, He earned more than just that much money? The hidden wealth among them may be the shares of these global groups. No, I believe it, but I just can't believe it. Liu Yao quickly waved her hands and said that she really couldn't believe it. He had changed so much in just a few days. That's the shares of Disney's parent company. 3% of the shares are worth $7 billion. He is also the third largest shareholder of Disney. It is no exaggeration to say that he is extremely powerful. What on earth did He go through over the years to become so rich? Liu Yao knew that this was a very serious matter, so she immediately called her father, who was driving a taxi. Not long after, Liu Yao's father and mother came back. Both of them were sweating profusely and were obviously very anxious. After looking at the data on the equity website, they were all shocked. Liu Wen used to run an amusement park, so he was considered an influential person. Of course, he knew about this website, as it was an authoritative website. Except for some wealthy people who voluntarily request to hide their identity information, the information on this side is generally true. Mr. He, I didn't expect that the child back then has grown to this point now. Liu Wen looked at He with admiration. He had seen He many times. After all, He's father had worked as a security guard in his amusement park for more than a year. I often go to the amusement park to visit my father. Even when I lived in the school dormitory, I didn't go back home on weekends. I would go directly to the amusement park and my father's dormitory. Uncle, if it weren't for your help, my family wouldn't have survived that crisis. Now that I have the ability, I should repay a drop of kindness with a spring of gratitude. Since you were able to save our family at a critical moment, I can also help you now. He said seriously. Liu Wen was very grateful. After knowing that He was the third largest shareholder of Disney, he stopped being pretentious. After all, if converted into RMB, He's net worth of 50 billion is hundreds or thousands of times his original assets. If you really want to help yourself, just sprinkle some water. Thank you, Mr. He. But Mr. He, is the amusement park you mentioned going to be built in our Shuipan city? Mr. He, do you want Disney to build a Disneyland in Shuipan city? Liu Wen asked curiously. If that's the case, it might be really good. Because the Shuipan city has developed very well in recent years. This place is known as the cool capital, with spring-like weather all year round. Therefore, many people from other provinces come here for vacation or short-term residence. So if a Disney theme park is opened here, it will be totally profitable. But it is obvious that He does not want to open a business in Shuipan city. I don't want to open it in Shuipan city. I want to open it in my hometown, Hajir village in Anan County. I have a grand vision, which is to build all entertainment projects based on mountains and forests. Take the roller coaster for example. It will be built into a real roller coaster several thousand meters long, which will pass through mountains, canyons, and rivers. You can enjoy the thrill while feeling the wind of nature. He said with a smile, and everyone was shocked.